Hopefully people will be able to hear me. Okay, good evening. Let me know as soon as you can hear me. Anybody there? Oh, how many people? Nobody watching yet. I'm just going to wait for a few people to turn up. Usually a few people are here by now. Anybody? Anybody there? Good evening. I'll try posting the thing in here. There we are. Good evening. Lime Specs. Hello, Lime Specs. Can you hear me all right? Am I audible to you? Let me know if my voice is carrying to where you are. Let me just change the camera slightly. There we are. How's that? Is that better? Oh, hello. Fine. Thanks, Lime Specs. Hello, Liz and Mark. Greetings. How are you? All ready to go on this wonderful new live stream? A week since the last one. Just 1 week since the last one. As you can see, I'm wearing my Gilets jaunes in solidarity with all my fellow yellow-vested ones across the world. Hello, Israel, Diego Rivera, Eugenio Lucentio Genius, which of course I will shorten in various ways, I promise you. So how are you all? I hope you're all right. Okay, so we're going to talk about Project Blue Book. I don't know how many of you seen it. It was on. Just a second. I'll give it a little while for a few more people to turn up as well. Right, just 1 moment. Bloody. I just got to get up the actual. Here we go. Okay. Now, who else is there? Simon Templar, hello. How are you? Crafty Nihilist, you've watched all the 3 episodes of Project Blue Book today. Actually done very well. Well, I'm glad you have. In fact, you're one up on me because I've not watched episode 3 yet. I've only watched 1 and 2. But that was enough for this live stream. I mean, that was when I saw it, I realised I would need to do a live stream about it. But yeah, I haven't seen part 3 yet, so you're one up on me. Hi Simon Templar and Ben Grizzly. Grim Reaper, Safety Man, Julian Carver, Videos from the Underground, Anthony Morn. Greetings all of you, 23 people. There's more people turning up. Hello, GS Evolved. Good evening. As for my beard, I've not oiled it yet. my Gillette protest beard is now in its 8th day, and it is kind of it stopped itching anyway. But it's going to have to go soon. I'm afraid. It's going to have to go. Hello, Luke Griffin. Hello, Ian Bennett. How are you? Nice to see Ian. Yeah, I've talked a lot with Ian Bennett, actually. I've never met him or sort of spoken to him as such, but he always seems to be on Google Plus whenever I'm there. So hello, Pain and Death to the New World Order. Hello, Paul Culliford. Thanks, Sir Paul. Yeah, I'll be saying more about the one about what I made in Wales in a little bit later. Mel, how do you do? Okay, Mel, there'll be spoilers tonight, I'm afraid. But it's only two. Paul Armstrong. Well, here we go again. I know, Paul, and you can't resist it. You got to tune, haven't you? Hello, Jock. Oh, thanks, Crafty Nihilist. I'm glad you like it. But you see, unfortunately, when I go to Denmark, I'm going to have to shed it because I've got to be smart. I've got to be kind of smart. I can always regrow it. I mean, it only took me 8 days to grow this. I can regrow it when I get back. Besides, I might well do actually until Gillette release their new sales figures and. Because it's going to affect, as I said last week, it's going to affect them in sales. They're not removing the video. I don't want them to. Let them keep the video up. Let them learn the hard way. They have researchers. They have market researchers and people like that. They know very well that their sales are going to go through down the ground because of this, because they are alienating their principal customer base, which is not a very, very good business model, Gillette. Crafty Nihilist. Mark is in tears. He had a face full of hair and always thought he was smart. Oh, sorry, Mark, but it's not. It's only my particular image. It's not. Beards are okay if you grow them well. Like if you grow them a little bit and they look scruffy. You need a couple of months before they actually make you look cool. The thing is, either you're clean shaven or you've got a beard for 2 months. But if you're within that 2 month period, your beard is kind of like it just makes you look like a scruffy git, basically. Oh, videos. Thank you very much. I don't think we're going to get Brexit, but there'll be videos from the underground. There'll be another live stream and probably maybe other videos about Brexit. Okay. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you like it, but torrent day only by invite though, says being in death. But you have to seed. Don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Paul Culliford, the film of Rendlesham Forest. You mean Capel Green? It's going to be available on the 1st of May. That's when it's coming out. Oh, thanks, Paul, darling. I look rugged. Well, let's focus on what we're talking about today. We're talking about Project Blue Book. Now, I wasn't originally going to do anything particular about this until I actually saw it. I didn't realise what it was like until I saw it, and I was a bit late catching up because I didn't realise that it was. I didn't see it. I saw it was there, and I was like, I've got to see that because I mentioned it, didn't I, in my New Year disclosure video? But I was other things got in the way, so I didn't get a chance to see it. But then I basically watched the first 2 episodes a couple of days ago, and then when I finished them, that's when I posted the live stream notice because I thought I've got to talk to you guys about it. It's pretty incredible. Now this is it's a show about Project Blue Book. I'll say more about the actual project in a minute, but basically, it's an official project by the government of the United States of America to investigate UFOs. So it's amazing actually how much resources the US have put in, and indeed all governments around the world have put in to investigating something that doesn't exist. They spent millions and millions of pounds on it. They've invested thousands of man hours, millions of man hours in actually looking into it, and they have created entire departments and military units to deal with this kind of thing. So for something that doesn't exist, that's quite incredible. Now, I must say this is not the first TV show about Project Blue Book that's been made. Now, some of you might know this, some of you might just be as ancient as I am, who might remember what VHS videos and things like that were. You may have watched a program called Project UFO. This was a show that I loved when I was a kid, and it didn't get me into UFOs, but I've always had that little bubbling underlying interest in UFOs that came from watching Project UFO. But it's a drama series about Project Blue Book, very similar to this one in nature, but it's very different in style. Probably more realistic, actually. Now, there's going to be eight episodes of this particular show, Project Blue Book. It's made for the History Channel, and 3 have been screened so far. The most recent one was screened last night, which I didn't see. Now, somebody, in fact, Paul, it was Paul Armstrong actually wrote to me, and he can confess in the chat box if he wants, but I'm going to out him anyway. He wrote to me and said, "Oh, another cheesy UFO TV series, fictional TV series." Or Paul, if I misquote you, you can correct me. But I think that's the basic. You did use the word cheesy, and I think that's the basis of what you said. And I thought, okay, but is it cheesy? No. But the truth of the matter is, it's not. It's actually very gritty and dark. It's quite similar to the X-Files. And what it's about is it refers to one of the main character is actually a real person, J. Allen Hynek, who was, I'll say more about him later, but he was the chief investigator of this, of Project Blue Book. In fact, he dates back earlier than that. He started with Project Grudge and Project Sign, but he really went full time and got involved with Project Blue Book. He's working alongside I think someone who is a fictional character, Captain Michael Quinn, who's this guy who's he's a US Air Force officer who's assigned also to this particular job. And it begins with like a secret government meeting. It's like Majestic 12, and they talk about, we're going to have to right Patterson Air Force Base. This is, and you get these like generals and admirals and people like that from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they're talking about, we've got to give the public some logical explanations that they need. They're asking too many questions. Again, the phrase "logical explanation" is a bit of a bugbear for me, and you might think I'm a bit pedantic. But there's no such thing as a logical explanation. There's only a logical method. But there's a reference to Roswell in it because, like, there's a notice board, and in one of the early scenes, the Hynek's character is actually reading the famous Roswell headline from the Roswell Daily Record. Now, so basically, Hynek's brought in to say that we're going to investigate UFOs and provide explanations for what they are. But it pretty turns out that it's not actually said to him directly, but it's hinted at, and he's made to know very clearly that what they are, the purpose of Project Blue Book, ostensibly is to investigate UFO sightings and go where the scientific evidence leads them. But it's pretty clear it's a very politically motivated outfit, which is intended to basically debunk, to provide explanations which are not extraterrestrial. Now, this, I don't know exactly how realistic this is, I'm not sure, but the film itself is actually not realistic. The series is not realistic. And indeed, it probably needs to add some non-realism to it, just to add energy to the plot, because a completely realistic drama series about Project Blue Book probably wouldn't be that interesting in terms of fiction. So they basically spring in at Hynek to give the public tell them what they want to hear. And this becomes increasingly clear through the first 2 episodes that his job is to tell the public what they want to hear. And Quinn, his colleague in this, his sidekick, is continuously trying to chivvy and chase him into saying things are not ET, because their first case they have to deal with is a US Air Force pilot whose plane crashes because he has an encounter with a UFO. And Hynek really goes into it in big time to get the details. He even gets his colleague to take him up in the same plane and fly over the same area and things like that. And his Quinn is continuously going, you see, Al, you see, Alan, you see what it is? It is nothing more than a weather balloon. I told you it was a weather balloon with a light on it, and it sees it's a weather balloon. And Hynek goes, yeah, maybe, but there's a bit more. And then Quinn goes, no, there's nothing more. Why are we still talking about this? Case closed. And so Hynek becomes increasingly disturbed by this. And there is a slight crossover with the real character. I'll say more about this later when I talk about the real project. But Hynek did actually go in as a skeptic, and he was convinced through weight of evidence that that some of the cases they investigated could not be explained by non-ET means, and he had to conclude there were some UFOs that were genuinely mysterious. He didn't get in trouble for this the way he does in this series, but it did rub a few people up the wrong way. Now it's interesting that in this series, J. Allen Hynek actually coins the term UFO. And we know it was actually Captain Ed Ruppelt who coined the term UFO. And he coined it in 1952 when the Project Blue Book opens in the first episode. But of course, it was actually later during the Condon report that I think the term UFO was first used. Before that, people used to say flying saucer. And so one of the catchphrases that the general, see, all this time that Quinn is putting pressure on Hynek, Quinn himself is having pressure put on him by this the general, this is his boss, the general in the US Air Force who's behind the whole project. And he says, you've got to write report, close cases. Write report, close cases. That's the point. They're basically, it's a debunking operation under the guise of an investigation. This is something that skeptics don't understand, and I hope skeptics will watch this and realize that it's what they're doing. It's kind of pseudo investigations, pseudo skeptics, as someone said to me on Facebook earlier. And what's more, Hynek finds that he's being followed around by mysterious men in dark-colored cars wearing dark-colored clothes. Yeah, and at one point they follow him, start the way, and he gives them the slip, but then he chases them. And it's really funny because he chases these men in black or whatever they are, these agents, and they lead him to a secret base in an abandoned fairground. Anyone who's watched horror movies know you never go into an abandoned fairground. But he goes in. There's this strange secret laboratory. And they're showing a film there's like a film projector showing on screen these really weird symbols. Now, episode 2 is about the Flatwoods monster. Now, the Flatwoods monster was a real thing. Actually, it was a real event that took place in 1952 in West Virginia, where some people, a whole family actually, were walking along a street, and they saw this flash in the sky, and this alien appeared over the hill, and they describe it as having like an owl-like face, being a big thing, like a big weird creature. You can see some toys of it. It looks like almost like a robot. Anyway, in this particular instance, the Flatwoods monster in the fiction, it's something crashes in the woods. There's a UFO crash, and they see what they think is an alien, and it's always the hint is that they may have seen a real alien, and the children are so shocked into it they can't come out of the house, and they get these actinic burns on their faces as well. And Quinn goes in there and says, "Oh look, see, Al, it's a forest fire, it's nothing." And then it come up with this idea that it's an owl. All they saw was an owl. It's very interesting because the forest fire situation, they go back to the forest fire and they see all the trees have been removed and there's like brushwood and stuff like that. It reminds me of Smilog Woods. If you watch my Penta video, it's like that. But there's other very weird things that goes on. Like, for example, it's not just Hynek who is getting attention from the authorities. His wife is basically befriended by a very mysterious, glamorous blonde woman. And it turns out that it's actually some kind of honey trap. And she actually starts trying to seduce her in a sort of homoerotic way. And it doesn't work. She's sitting in a car, and this weird woman goes up and starts feeling her leg and things like that. And then she takes Hynek's wife out for a drink, and they go to this kind of like basement bar of ill repute. And she goes in there, and there's loads of like women kissing each other and men kissing each other and things like that, which in those days was really was extremely taboo and very, very fringe. Of course, nowadays it doesn't matter. There's gay pubs in every town, but in those days it was very, very unacceptable. And so it doesn't work because Mimi, that's Hynek's wife, she just runs out the door. There's other weird things, right? There's at one point Hynek goes to visit this old lady who's in an insane asylum. She's like in a psychiatric ward. She actually falls from the window. She falls from an upper window onto the ground and dies. And there's Hynek is saying, "How did that happen? How does it happen? It doesn't make sense." Now this is actually based on a real event, I'm sure, which is the death of Admiral James Forrestal. Forrestal was a guy who went to Antarctica with Admiral Byrd. I could tell you a whole story about that, but there's always been an idea that Forrestal was involved with Majestic 12, and that he knew the secrets of UFOs. Anyway, he was diagnosed. Forrestal had a nervous breakdown. Was put in a psychiatric ward at the Bethesda Naval Institute, the Bethesda Naval Hospital, on the 11th floor on a psychiatric ward. And apparently he opened the window and fell to his death, which anyone like in my position would know that's ridiculous, because you don't have windows that open on a psychiatric ward, especially when it's on the 11th floor, because you'll have people jumping off there all the time like lemmings. So that's maybe they're trying to drop a hint here. It's really, really interesting, especially when you consider more recent news that I'll go into. Anyway, I'll give you some details of the series. Project Blue Book is a historical period drama starring Aidan Gillen. He plays Hynek, Laura Mennel, Michael Harney, Ksenia Solo, and Michael Malarkey. Michael Malarkey plays Quinn. Executive producers Robert Zemeckis. Now he's very famous for several films such as Forrest Gump and Back to the Future. And its production was Vancouver, British Columbia, so it's Canadian, not American. It says America. Oh, it is American production, but made in Canada. American historical drama television series that premiered in history January the 8th, 2019. The main role of J. Allen Hynek is played by Aidan Gillen. Actor, I've heard his name. I think he's in Game of Thrones or something. It's going to consist of 10 episodes. Sorry, not 8 episodes, 10 episodes. All good. The series is based on the real-life Project Blue Book, a series of studies on unidentified flying objects. The series revolves around secret U.S. Air Force investigations that supposed UFO encounters and unexplained phenomenon undertaken by an astrophysicist and eventual ufologist J. Allen Hynek in the 1950s and 60s. It's interesting that Hynek, as I said, this was well, basically, as I said, there would be spoilers in here. In the TV series, it's a lot more is going on than just investigating. It's active cover-up, and indeed, it's revealed at the end of episode 2 that the Flatwoods monster case was a real UFO, and indeed, there's a crash retrieval. Interesting, now, isn't it? All right. Now, the real Project Blue Book. It was one of a series of systematic studies of unidentified flying objects conducted by the United States Air Force starting in 1952, the third study of its kind. The first two were Project Sign in 1947 and Project Grudge in 1949. So that's 3 in the space of like between 47 and 52. The US government had 3 separate projects to investigate UFOs. How strange. A termination order was given for the study in December 1969. So it all ended in 1969. And of course, well, I'll come to that because that's very important. Indeed, I've talked about this in previous videos, the fact that the termination of Project Blue Book and what it meant. It had 2 goals. This is the real Project Blue Book. To determine if UFOs were a threat to national security, and 2, to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. Right, well, obviously, UFOs are a threat to national security. If you know of something that can fly at 12,000 miles per hour and penetrate the most secure nuclear installation, that is a threat to national security. So when Nick Pope says that there was no national security issue to do with the Rendlesham Forest incident, and I think that's it. I think it was him that said that. Or I apologise to Nick Pope if it wasn't, but I think it was him. Was it David Clark? I don't know. But anyway, whoever said it, somebody tried to claim that the RFI was not a national security issue when it was the largest nuclear arsenal. It was the site of the largest nuclear arsenal in Western Europe at the Bentwaters Woodbridge base. And these aliens just appeared, and these creatures just appeared, and these UFOs appeared. They were able to shine beams of light into the actual weapon storage area. Oh, my God. Thousands of UFO reports were collected, analysed and filed as a result of the Condon Report of 1968, which concluded there was nothing anomalous about UFOs. Nothing to see here. Move along. And, of course, in a review of the report by the National Academy of Sciences, Project Blue Book was terminated the following year. The Air Force provides the following summary. 1. No UFO reported, investigated and evaluated by the Air Force was ever an indication of a threat to our national security. 2. There was no evidence submitted or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond the range of modern scientific knowledge. And 3. There was no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified were extraterrestrial vehicles. Well, you knows what I do. That's bull fucking shit. And we now have proof of that. By the time Project Blue Book ended, it collected 12,618 UFO reports and concluded that most of them were misidentifications of natural phenomena, cloud stars, conventional aircraft, etc. Well, that's true, but the majority are. But that doesn't mean that not all of them were. A small percentage were classified as unexplained, even after stringent analysis. And all the archives are available under the Freedom of Information Act. Public US Air Force UFO studies were initiated under Project Sign at the end of 1947, just a few months after Kenneth Arnold. Initially investigated on the request of General Nathan Twining of the Air Force Materiel Command at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Now that guy's very interesting, General Nathan Twining, because he was written to, someone wrote him a letter, actually with Admiral Roscoe Hillencutter, who was the first head of the CIA, telling Nathan Twining that basically laying out the fact that public interest in UFOs had to be dissuaded through official ridicule and denial. So it throws a massive spanner in the works when it throws a massive light on what I said earlier about what the summary of the Condon Report, doesn't it? Because they're saying, on the one hand, they're saying, oh, nothing to see here, move along. And on the other hand, the head of the CIA is writing to the head of Project Sign, saying, we are going to have to, we're going to have to dissuade public interest. We're going to have to put the people off the scent. We're going to have to distract them by saying UFOs are not real, and we should make a big joke about them whenever we can. So they're omitting it. It's open. The Twining memo is, you can read it. According to Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, the first director of Project Blue Book, Sign's initial intelligence estimate, written in the late summer of 1948, concluded that the flying saucers were real craft and not made by the Soviet Union or the United States, and were likely extraterrestrial in origin. Obviously, he hadn't received the same memo that Twining did. General Twining had a very, very, obviously, he was out of the loop, or maybe he wasn't in class that day. The estimate was forwarded to the Pentagon and subsequently ordered destroyed by General Hoyt Vandenberg. And Vandenberg then dismantled Project Sign. And General Hoyt Vandenberg is one of the names of the Majestic 12. Project Sign was succeeded at the end of 1948 by Project Grudge, which was criticized as having a debunking mandate. Well, no shit, Sherlock. They said it. Ruppelt referred to the era of Project Grudge as the Dark Ages. Oh my goodness me. Did you see? Grudge concluded that all UFOs were natural phenomena or other misinterpretations. Although it stated that 23% of the reports could not be explained. Slight contradiction. According to Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, at the end of 1951, several high-ranking, very influential U.S. Air Force generals were so dissatisfied with the state of Air Force UFO investigations, they dismantled Project Grudge and replaced it with Project Blue Book in March 1952. One of these men was General P. Cable, who I think might have been the character in the TV series. Another important change came with William Garland. Garland thought the UFO's questions deserved serious scrutiny because he had witnessed a UFO. The name Project Blue Book was selected to refer to the blue booklets used for testing at some colleges and universities. Oh, right. The name was inspired by the close attention the high-ranking officers were giving the new project. Remember, it's something that doesn't exist. Ruppelt was head of the first project, and he was an experienced airman, having been decorated for his efforts. Okay. He officially coined the term unidentified flying objects. So it was him to replace flying saucer, flying disc, and so on that the military previously used. Ruppelt thought that unidentified flying objects was a more neutral and accurate term, which it is. He wrote a book, Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, which described the study of UFOs by the United States Air Force from 1947 to 1955. American scientist Michael D. Swords wrote, Ruppelt would lead to the last genuine effort to investigate UFOs. Of course, he didn't. It wasn't the last. Ruppelt instituted changes, streamlined the manner, and he tried to alleviate the stigma and ridicule associated with UFO witness. So obviously Ruppelt was someone who sounds like a white hat to me, probably working for the Alliance against the Cabal and the Deep State. He designed questionnaires. He commissioned the Battelle Memorial Institute to create the questionnaire and computerize the data. That's interesting because those of you who listen to Hapanwo Radio will know that I've interviewed Dr. Irena Scott, who was actually involved with that. And she's just written a new book all about Project Blue Book, which I can't wait to read. When I've read it, I've already talked to Irena about this. She's coming back onto Hapanwo Radio. So do please listen to my two previous interviews with Dr. Irena Scott. In 1954, there was a Project Blue Book special report released. Ruppelt did his best to avoid factionalization and avoid the kinds of open-ended speculation that led to science personnel being split among advocates and critics of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Ruppelt took the job seriously and even dismissed people who he thought were being too convinced of a single theory, too pro or too con. That sounds fair enough, I think. He sounds like an honest guy, Ruppelt. Each US Air Force base had a Blue Book officer to collect UFO reports and forward them to Ruppelt. Every single US Air Force base. It was a huge project. My goodness, because there's US Air Force bases not only on the United States, but all over the world. Blimey. His team were authorized to interview any and all military personnel who witnessed UFOs and were not required to follow the chain of command. This unprecedented authority underlined the seriousness of it all. Seriousness for something that doesn't exist. Under Ruppelt's direction, Blue Book investigated a number of well-known UFO cases, such as the Lubbock Lights. In fact, the most recent episode, the one that was on last night, is called the Lubbock Lights. So it's probably about that, or based on that. Ruppelt's accused of not giving serious consideration to numerous reports of UFO landings and interaction with purported UFO occupants. And that was a mistake, of course. That's what we call abduction and contact. According to astronomer J. Allen Hynek, and that's it, he was the scientific consultant for the project and had been with Sign and Grudge as well. He worked for the project right up to its termination and initially created the categorization, which has been extended, known as the Close Encounters Hynek scale. That is where you get the phrase Close Encounters of a Third Kind. And indeed, we all know that phrase because it's the title of Steven Spielberg's famous movie about UFOs, which in which Hynek actually appears. He has a cameo appearance in that particular film. And what he basically said was Close Encounters of the First Kind was where you see something. Up close, you get a good look at it. Second kind is where there's some kind of physical evidence left by this object. The third kind is where you meet the aliens. Right, where are we next? The Robertson panel. In July 1952, after a build-up of hundreds of sightings, including visual sightings near the National Airport in Washington, D.C., future Arizona Senator John McCain was alleged to be one of these witnesses. John McCain. Now, he's a guy who's considerable tonight. He must be quite young then, but he was the 2008 presidential nominee, and he actually died a few months ago of a brain tumor. I'm not saying there's a connection with that, but it's interesting, isn't it? After much publicity, these sightings led the Central Intelligence Agency to establish a panel of scientists headed by Dr. H.P. Robertson, a physicist from the California Institute of Technology, which is where Bob Lazar trained, which included various physicists, meteorologists, and engineers, and one astronomer, Hynek. The Robertson panel first met on January the 14th, 1953, in order to formulate a response to the overwhelming public interest in UFOs. Ruppelt, Hynek, and others presented the best evidence, and it goes on, and blah, blah, blah. The final report stressed that low-grade, unverifiable UFO reports were overloading intelligence channels, and they risked missing a genuine conventional threat. That just shows how many reports there were, doesn't it? Then this is it. They emphasized the subject of UFOs and embarked on a debunking campaign to lessen public interest. They suggested debunkery through the mass media and had on board Walt Disney. Now, this is unbelievable. They used psychologists, astronomers, and celebrities to ridicule the phenomenon and put forward prosaic explanations. Furthermore, civilian UFO groups should be watched because of their potentially great interest on mass thinking. They'll be coming to the Benowitz affair and things like that much later on. The apparent irresponsibility and a possible use of such group for subversive purposes should be kept in mind. And you also get into APEN as well, which happened over here in Britain, where there was this idea that the National Front were using UFO groups and stuff like that. But I mean, that was bollocks. But the truth of the matter is, they are admitting, the Robertson panel admitted they were doing the very thing the skeptics say is not being done. I'll read this again, it's so important. They emphasized the subject of UFOs and decided to embark on a debunking campaign to lessen public interest. They suggested debunkery through the mass media and had on board Walt Disney. They used various experts to ridicule the phenomenon and put forward prosaic explanations while spying on civilian UFO groups. This is exactly what we're told. We're just told is nonsense and is not happening. And they're admitting that they're doing it. they said the Robertson panel recommended controlling public opinion through a program of official propaganda and spying, and they believe these recommendations help shape Air Force policy regarding UFO study, not only immediately afterwards, but also into the present day. There's evidence that the panel's recommendations were being carried out at least 2 decades after its conclusions were issued. 2 decades? Try 6 decades. And it can't, blimey. In December 1953, the Joint Army Navy Air Force Regulation number 146 made it a crime for military personnel to discuss classified UFO reports with unauthorized persons. Violators faced up to 2 years in prison or fines of $10,000. But why don't people speak out? That's why. Ruppelt described the demoralization of Project Blue Book, as in February 1953, the Air Force then said ordering airbase officers to publicly discuss UFO incidents only if they were judged to have been solved, and to classify all unsolved cases to keep them out of the public eye. So they see that the Robertson panel was actually recommending a cover-up. So in that sense, the series, the TV series I'm talking about here, is not that unrealistic. And what's happening in it could really have happened, such as the covering up of crash retrievals. As I said, this is a gritty, hard-hitting program. It's dark. It's quite melancholy in some ways. It's quite controversial. I mean, I think the honey trap scene with the two women is very much so, and it is very like the X-Files in that sense. It seems that Blue Book only dealt with the more trivial reports, and the 4602nd AISS, Air Intelligence Squadron of the Air Defense Command, was assigned the task of investigating the most important cases. So in a sense, Project Blue Book was there to in a sense be the public front for a more covert organization also within the US Air Force. General Nathan Twining, the guy who got the letter from the CIA, he started Project Sign in 1947. He was now by August 1954, he was the Air Force Chief of Staff. That's interesting. So it goes on. It seems that they were soberly concerned with all this. They called UFOs. UFOBs were defined as any airborne or airborne object with a performance aerodynamic characteristics or unusual feature that does not conform presently known to aircraft or missiles. If they were unidentified, the media was to be told only that the situation was being analysed. Blue Book was also ordered to release the number of unidentified ones to a minimum. So this is like the write reports and close cases catchphrase that Quinn, the character in the series, is being told to do. All this work was done secretly. The public face of Blue Book continued to be the official Air Force investigation of UFOs. But the reality was that it had essentially been reduced to doing very little serious investigation, and had become almost solely a public relations outfit with a debunking mandate. Just like one example, by the end of 1956, the number of cases listed as unsolved had dipped to barely 0.4% from the 20 to 30% only a few years earlier. It's interesting because skeptics often quote the phrase "less than 1%." What they actually mean is that this is the less than 1% comes after this process. And indeed, in that UFO book I showed you, it's on my shelf, which I had when I was a kid, which I actually went through in one of my UFO disclosure videos. They quote that 30 to 33%, I think they quote. Ruppelt requested reassignment. I don't blame him. In August 1953, his staff had been reduced to more than 10, but just 2 subordinates and himself. His temporary replacement was a non-commissioned officer. Most who succeeded him as Blue Book director exhibit either apathy or outright hostility to the subject of UFOs. Obviously, the deep state struck back. UFO investigators often regard Ruppelt's brief tenure as Blue Book as the high watermark of public Air Force investigations of UFOs, where UFO investigations were treated seriously. Thereafter, Project Blue Book descended into a new dark age, which many UN investigators argue it never emerged from. However, Ruppelt later came to embrace the Blue Book perspective that there was nothing extraordinary about UFOs, and even labelled it a space-age myth. Now, so they got to him eventually. I wonder what they threatened him with. Has he got a big family? In March 1954, Captain Hardin was appointed. Hardin, not grow up. Ruppelt wrote that Hardin thinks that anyone who's interested in UFOs is crazy. Well, that's why he got the job, didn't he? In 1956, Captain George T. Gregory took over. And he's an even firmer anti-UFO direction believer, said Ruppelt. Yeah. One way that Gregory reduced the number of unexplained UFOs was by simple reclassification. Possible cases became probable, and probable cases were upgraded to certainties. By this logic, a possible comet became a probable comet, while a probable comet was flatly declared to have been a misidentified comet. You see what you get if you massage the figures? Skeptics should learn from this. So my beard's going, oh my God, it's itching again. Do you think I'll get my beard as long as UFO Jesus? You know, Ryan, you know, the post-disclosure world YouTube guy. Do you think I could ever get a beard as long as his? Major Robert Friend was appointed as head of Blue Book in 1958. They're going up the ranks now. They're getting someone more senior. Now, he made attempts to reverse the direction of Blue Book that's been taken since 1954. He tried to reorganize the whole thing. And heartened by Major Friend's efforts, Hynek organized the first of several meetings between Blue Book staffers and ATIC personnel. That's not the same as ATIP. Hynek suggested that some older UFO reports should be re-evaluated with the ostensible aim of moving them from unknown to the identified category. Hynek's plans came to naught. You see, the entire the entire government official position on UFOs is the result of all this we're talking about here. Okay, in 1960 there were US congressional hearings regarding UFOs in 1960. It's like the one Steve Bassett. The citizens hearing. They did real ones back then. Civilian UFO research group NICAP had publicly charged Blue Book with covering up UFO evidence. That's happened several times before, like CAUSE, the Committee Against UFO Secrecy. They sued, I can't remember who they sued. They sued the government, and they tried to get FOIA requests and things like that. Blue Book was investigated by Congress and the CIA, with critics, most notably the civilian UFO group NICAP, asserted the Blue Book was lacking as a scientific study. Joe! My goodness, call the papers. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? ATIC, whatever that stands for, added personnel, increased Blue Book's budget. This seemed to mollify some of Blue Book's critics, but only temporarily. Criticism became even louder. Major Friend was transferred in 1963 and thought the Blue Book was effectively useless and ought to be dissolved. But that was 6 years before it actually happened. Major Quintanilla, that's a good name, took over in August 1963 and continued the debunking efforts. Other researchers wrote that Blue Book lost all credibility. Physicist and UFO researcher Dr. James E. McDonald flatly declared that Quintanilla was not competent. Well, he was competent. He was competent in the cover-up. That was his purpose. Interesting. James McDonald. Now, he comes up in my Skeptics video when he talk about Project Alpha, if you've ever seen that. But he was the one behind all that. He was the one who was basically attacked by this hoax. There's all kinds of examples such as, but basically people would see something really amazing and they would downplay it. They would make out you saw the full moon through clouds or something. You know. A newspaper editorial opined that attempts to dismiss the reported sightings under the rationale as exhibited by Project Blue Book won't solve the mystery and only serve to heighten suspicion There was something there that the Air Force doesn't want us to know about. Exactly. Ooh. Oh, in September 1968, Hynek received a letter from Colonel Raymond Sleeper of the Foreign Technology Division. Sleeper noted that Hynek had publicly accused Blue Book of shoddy science, and further asked Hynek to offer advice on how Blue Book could improve its scientific methods. By this time, Hynek has actually he'd come to believe that there was something real going on. Can you see me? Is my camera shifting? Can you see me all right? I'm just going to reframe. Oh, I'm just going to reframe myself. Oh, where we go? Where are we? Hynek said on 7th of October 1968 that Blue Book could improve by 1. Neither of the 2 missions of Blue Book are being adequately executed. The staff of Blue Book is grossly inadequate. Blue Book suffers in a closed system. There's virtually no scientific dialogue with the outside world. The statistical methods are a travesty. There's been a lack of attention on UFOs to significant UFO cases. The information input to Blue Book is grossly inadequate. The basic aptitude and approach within Blue Book is illogical and unscientific. Inadequate use has been made of Project Scientific Consultant, that's himself. So he was kind of sidelined. This is what you would expect from a cover-up. This is exactly what this. If Project Blue Book had been set up to basically distract the truth or to confuse and suppress the truth of UFOs through official government ridicule and denial, as the head of the CIA said, then that's what it would look like, and it did. Congressional hearings. Right, now this is interesting. This is quite something. And there was a congressional hearing, as I said, in 1960. There was another one in 1966 because of there was a big flap in Massachusetts, and that's eventually the local representatives and senators actually managed to get various hearings. And the Condon Committee comes next. Criticism of Blue Book continued to grow. NICAP's membership ballooned to about 15,000. That's more than I think any UFO group in the modern world. Following the US congressional hearings, the Condon Committee was established in 1966, ostensibly as a neutral scientific research body. However, the committee became mired in controversy. Again, just like Blue Book. Some of its members charging Director Edward U. Condon with bias, and critics would question the validity and scientific rigor of the Condon report. In the end, the Condon Committee suggested there's nothing extraordinary about UFOs, and while it left a minority of cases unexplained, the report also argued that further research would not be likely to yield significant results. I hope you're all noticing I'm letting the Condon name slide. I'm not going to actually try to tell any jokes related to rubbery contraceptives. I'm far too mature for that. In response to the Condon Committee's conclusions, the Secretary of the Air Force announced that Blue Book would soon be closed. Yes, and it was the following year. The Project Blue Book stated that UFOs were generally a result of a mild form of mass hysteria. Individuals who fabricate such report to perpetrate a hoax or seek publicity. Psychopathological persons. Misidentifications of various conventional objects. In April of 2003, the US Air Force publicly indicated there were no immediate plans to re-establish any official government UFO programs. Yes. We all know where that led, didn't we? Right, and then, of course, the official position has been revealed in 2011 by the White House petition, the second White House petition from Grant Cameron. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force has ever given any indication of threat to our national security. There has been no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified present technological developments or principles beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge. There has been no evidence indicating the sightings categorized as unidentified are extraterrestrial vehicles. And you might actually notice that this conclusion is exactly the same, almost verbatim, to the 1948 Project Sign conclusion. So in 21 years, they just kept repeating the same things. But then, of course, what came after that? They revealed a year ago that they've been investigating through other means and other organizations such as ATIP, the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, or that might stand for something else. This led to the launch of the To the Stars Academy. Now, whatever you think about, whatever the truth is behind that, there's no doubt the thing did exist, and it did represent a study of UFOs, and that even if it is complete disinformation, the fact of the matter is, for something that doesn't exist, that they have twice said, basically, there's nothing to see move along. Nothing to see move along. They've done it twice, in 1948 and 1969. Since then in 2011, they admitted, the government lied by saying, well, we're just not interested. Ever since the closure of Project Blue Book, we haven't even thought about UFOs. They then admitted from 2007 to 2012 they had a project which cost with an annual budget of £20 million from Senator Harry Reid and the official Luis Elizondo. That's at least two people who are involved, including contractors like Bob Bigelow, to investigate UFOs. Now, just imagine if some idiot in some crazy guy in the US government in 1947, when Project Sign began, said to you, announced, we need to carry out an official government investigation with a large amount of personnel and a big budget to find out whether Santa Claus exists. And somehow, for some miracle, he got that passed through Congress. How long do you think that project would last if it was actually established? How long would it last? You know what? It would last maybe 5, 6, 7 years. No, I was going to say years. Minutes. That's how long it will last. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to forget what I did last time. I'm not going to forget what I did last time. I'm actually going to share this on Facebook and on Twitter. I mean, I know I've been running now for quite a long time, but at least I haven't. I am actually doing this, and I'll share it on Twitter as well. There we go. Right then, so let's have a look. Some of you left some comments on the notice, live stream notice, which I'll just read now. All right, here we go. Right, Mel O'Brien says, History Channel, hosted by some Game of Thrones idiot. Yeah, he was in Game of Thrones, wasn't he? Doesn't sound good. I spoke in person with Dr. Hynek in the 70s. Did you, Mel? All right, I'm interested to hear about that, about our close encounter of the fourth kind. Now, fourth kind is like, I think is what's often known as abduction. I mean, this is after Hynek stopped all this, but other people have kind of carried on his work by adapting his scale. Now called CE5 by that UFO tour guide narcissist Stephen Greer. Yeah, it's Greer who coined the CE5 thing. But of course, you can't see a CE5 unless you pay him £5,000 or something. I have a copy of Rappelt's report on unidentified flying objects from 1956, and haven't read it in years. Been researching UFOs since 1967, when 4 of us had a terrifying encounter with the silver disc and 2 unfriendly little things. Really, Mel? My goodness. That's interesting. They landed here on September 28th, last on this farm about 50 yards from the house. Last September 28th. I don't know what they want. Next time I'm going to get a bit closer, but it's dangerous for several reasons if you get too close. Black triangular craft are military. UFOs glow with a self-contained light that doesn't light up the surroundings. UFOs don't have landing gear. Is hypnotic regression. Menopausal women are delusional, claiming to have been abducted. It's very rare that they abduct somebody and let them return. Really? So you're saying that abductees and that are delusional? I don't think that's true, but there are some. There, of course, there are some like who are mentally ill. I know, but I mean, it's not fair to say all of them are. But anyway, I'll carry on. The rest are fools and frauds. Hopkins and Mack were involved in hypnotic regression, which is unreliable nonsense. The subject will tell the controller what they want to hear. Again, I don't think that's true. But anyway, the placebo effect on Stockholm syndrome. Aleister Crowley described hypnotism as black magic. He knew all about that, I suppose. Mel O'Brien says, they're back. This is 1 hour ago. Strange white glowing lights around the barn just after sundown, around 6:15. Got to within about 50 feet of them and they disappeared. I thought it was someone in the barn with a flashlight. I saw 3 lights. When I realized it wasn't a flashlight, I shone my flashlight on them. They disappeared in about a second or two. I'm not afraid of them anymore. I don't know what they want with me, but I'm going to approach them every time they show up from now on, like they're playing mind games. Mel, use the word flashlight. I presume you're American. If you want to contact me privately, it's bennyj74@gmx.co.uk. There's on the Panlo TV blog, you can find my email. I'm happy to talk to you privately about this if you want. That's really interesting. Dijdu said, no telly bed. Haven't a clue what it's about, but we'll tune into you. Oh, thanks, Dij. Well, I don't blame you not having a telly. I mean, there is a television in my house, but it's usually the other 2 guys who watch it. I hardly ever watch it. In fact, they were watching something else when Project Blue Book was on last night. So even if I'd had time, I'd have been outvoted. Neptune Returns. Hi, Neptune Returns. He says, Project Blue Book is that kids' colouring book used in schools with all the trans characters. Very good. Blue Book, Blue Book, Blue Book, says Anthony Morn. What a 1950s scam on the general public. Indeed it was. And in fact, the TV series, Anthony, is actually portraying it that way, which is very good, which I'm excited to watch the rest of it. Mel says, it concludes that UFOs are real and controlled by non-human entities. That's pretty advanced stuff for 1956. Well, it did under the Repelt era, but that was as I've just explained, that was just unfortunately a short hiatus of clarity between 2 periods of debunking nonsense and muddiness, deliberately muddling up everything that's happening. Right, guys, let's get through your comments. Let's see what you've been saying. You like the yellow vest, says Simon Templar. Thanks. It's. I thought I'd wear this in solidarity with my Gilets jaunes, mes amis. Videos from the underground. Good luck with Brexit. Oh, don't get too unruly, or May will turn into a Macron. Well, I can hardly tell the 2 apart now. But it seems like these people like Macron seem to be popping up everywhere. I mean, he looks like the twin brother of Justin Trudeau in Canada. He somehow got into power in Canada. Well, I'm glad you like the beard, guys. Like I said, I want to. If I can get it as long as UFO Jesus, I might keep it. But I've got to go through that, which I can't do. I can't actually do that at the moment when I'm going to Denmark to speak on stage. I've got to look smart for these Danish people. I'm not going all the way to Denmark to look a scruffy bastard. Sorenable, hello from West Cork, Skibbereen Island. Oh, hi, Sorenable, hello. I didn't know you lived there. It's nice to know where you are. I've heard that's a nice area. I went to Tremor once, and I thought it was a beautiful beach, beautiful little place. Mel O'Brien just finished Left at Eastgate. Oh, well done, Mel. Hold on to that copy because it's out of print now, thanks to all the mess that's been going on with the trolls and stuff. There's a new book coming out, Incoming Missile, which is kind of like Left at Eastgate with corrections and omissions of things that shouldn't be in there, basically. Mel O'Brien, you're from Drinhay. Are you in Ireland, Mel? I thought you were American because you say flashlight. But David Schultz, hello. It's snowing here in Maine, USA. Oh, right. Well, David, we had a bit of snow last night, and it was quite thick on the ground today. And we probably get less than you, but thanks for tuning in from Maine, USA. And Pain and Death of the New World Order is from Nottingham. All right. Hi, DJ B2. Blue Book seed funded by the deep state. Yeah. Lime Specs. I kind of love how it's all the usual suspects. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Lime Specs. Grim Reaper. Hello. Hi, Macy. Anthony Morn. Yes, it was a rip-off to keep the public nice and quiet. Exactly. Alchemy 432, the Fool and Card Magician. We don't need to know about your old porn collection. Oh dear, I do. One little word that goes wrong. Right? Luke Griffin, they spend millions of pounds on global warming that doesn't exist either. Yeah, Luke, that's another good example. It's politically, if something's approved politically, it could be literally belief in Santa Claus, as I was saying earlier. You know, I mean, how it's incredible. There's all this going on for something that doesn't exist. In a sense, they're continuously trying to persuade us again and again and again that something doesn't exist. With climate change, it's the other way around. It's continuously telling us something does exist when it doesn't. Video says, off to look at cello. We'll listen in the car on the way. At a cello? Oh, right. Do you play one of these things? No, it's not cheesy, Paul. Have you seen it? I wouldn't call that cheesy. Better than X-Files. My goodness, crafty nihilist. That is a compliment indeed for the producers of the film. I don't know how to sort of rank it, but it is really good. It's excellent, yeah. Mel, you're saying you met Hynek in the 70s in Toronto. Right, that's interesting. What was he like? I never did. I know that he did some interviews before he died with Paola Harris. Yeah. Macy says, humans don't fit into the animal kingdom on this planet. There are lots of mysterious things about humans, yeah, and I'm interested in the ancient alien things and the idea that something's not quite, we don't quite fit in the sense that we've been changed in some way. Israel, Diego Rivera, the government will always deny alien existence unless it's impossible to keep secret. I know. The thing is, I mean, I sometimes wonder what would disclosure actually look like. I mean, I had to think about this when I was writing my books. How would we get in a situation where they actually would say so? David Schultz said, Richard Dolan was talking about Project Blue Book on his YouTube channel. I'm interested to hear what Dolan actually has to say about it, because he is actually, he's obviously seen it, and I knew he wouldn't miss it. We are very different to anything else. Could be hybrid aliens. Yes, I may see. Alchemy says, UFO, uneducated, fucking awful. Oh, that's what it stands for, does it? Anthony Moore, how come the Phoenix Lights was meant to have been seen in the air for 4 to 5 hours next to 2 military bases? The lights were not intercepted. Well, the official story, Anthony, is it was flares, just aircraft flares, which is utter rubbish. Just look at what Dr. Lynn Ketai has been saying about it. She saw the whole thing from start to finish. Indeed, Governor Fife Symington, who originally spread disinformation, has confessed that he lied. Love Dolan and Tracy. Yeah, Lime Specs, they're cool. Tina Silver, there was a 1977 TV show called Project Blue Book. Yes, that's the one I meant, Tina. It's really good. You can get it on YouTube if you want to see it. It's sort of more light-hearted than one we have now, and it also is embellished, but it's really interesting. But some of the cases turned out to be really alien, and others were fake. There was sort of like a mixture of ones that were solved and were fake or misidentified, and there was some that were like real. Sometimes there was a twist in the story, like something would appear to be fake, and at the last moment you realise it was real. Pain and Death says, Anthony, I say, how come 9/11 happened? Oh yeah, it's Alchemy says, you think someone with the brains of Ben could afford a baseball cap of a larger size? Oh, thank you very much. But this was given to me, actually. I think it's a reasonable size. It fits nicely onto my head. And it is it was a gift from Truth Seekers Northeast. And by watching my videos, how many times I've been there. I Macy, lots of symbolism in 1970s film. Rollerball, yes, that is a very good one. Alchemy says, smile, Ben, I'm a magician and the observer. Collapses the quantum wave function. You're on candid camera. All right. Hold, and he says, or he or she says, hold, you've never been when counting on you keeping a straight face. Yeah, that's... Diego Rivera, have you been ever followed by the Men in Black? No, I haven't. Not to my knowledge. Anthony Morn. The Earth really is flat. Now, I'll tell you, actually, about the Men in Black. Some strange people turned up at a probe conference once. Very weird. They were all in dark suits and no one seemed to know who they are. That was just after Dean Warwick died. Very strange, that was. Anyway, the Earth really is flat, says Anthony Morn. And to keep the secret in trillions of pounds and dollars, they've been conned. We've been conned. Anthony, I'm sorry, I'm a roundhead. Mel O'Brien, the Great Owl of Bohemia. Talking about owls. Was that what the Flatwoods monster was? Oh, the paedophile. Yeah, the paedophile sanctuary at Bohemian Grove. Yeah. Oh, we got a flat Earth argument broken out again. Fight. Oh, here we go. Heidi, Chief. Oh, Tidy. Hello, Heidi, Chief TFN. How are you? Are you well, Heidi? It's nice to talk to you again. Thanks for posting. Neptune returns says, why do stars twinkle and planets don't? I don't know. I think they all do, don't they? Mel O'Brien says, I sailed across the Atlantic. The shore sank into the sea, leaving rose up out of the sea. I approached New York. The Earth is clearly spherical. Yeah. All right. I'm not. You know what I think? I'm a roundhead. I'm a globalist. You know what I think about the flat Earth issue? Yeah, I'll leave you to deal with that amongst yourselves, guys. Heidi, did you enjoy it? Yes, it is. It's a very good show, very good introduction to the subject. You're right. Oh yeah. Crafty Nihilix says Hynek's son did something with the film Predator, special effects, I think. Well, you know, that's a good film actually. About an alien, an evil alien that comes down to Earth. I didn't know that he was involved with that. David Schultz. Here's a book to check out. The Field Guide to Extraterrestrials by Patrick Hugh. I think I was given a copy of that. That book that was given to me by Truth Seeks Northeast. I think so. Right. Frustrating for those in the know, Heidi. Okay. Isn't more? Let's just see. I'm just skipping the flat Earth arguments. Poopy Pope. Oh, Nick Pope. I'll have a lot more to say about Nick Pope in time. Where are we? That's flat Earth, round Earth. Does it really matter? Oh yeah, it's Well, I mean, the thing about the flat Earth crafty nihilist is, I know people just they'll just block flat earthers if they see them. as soon as a flat earther appears and starts spruiking, as Steve Mumbling would say, they get this guy. I just block them. I don't. I actually allow them. I believe in free speech. I'm even willing to sometimes talk to them and explain why I don't agree with them if they're polite and they don't take up too much of my time. I even did a special a Panama radio show on the flat Earth. And I had Mark Sargent on. In fact, the interview is found on it. You can find the interview on his channel. Aidan Gillen was in the UK version of Queer as Folks. Was he? I remember that. That was like a really controversial, one of these really controversial programs that people made it to be controversial so they could get so many viewers and high viewing figures. I remember that, Tina. I watched it and thought it wasn't that good. But so what? It was controversial, so everyone else wanted to watch it. Aidan Morn says, because yous have, and we're all being conned by the Illuminati child shaggers in America, that's got something to do with it. Luke Griffin, Wakewood, good film. Craft. Okay. Woody Black, hello. Mel O'Brien says, the last two sentences of Project Blue Book. Maybe the Earth has been visited by interplanetary spaceships. Only time will tell. Well, it's like, Mel, that might have been an afterthought, but basically the whole thing was set up to fail. Project Blue Book was the ufological equivalent of Brexit and Theresa May's deal. I know, crafty Darnus. This is why I don't like fighting. We fighting amongst ourselves, which is why I tolerate the flat earthers. Okay. Have I read the Alien Interview book, Ben? Says John Barry. No, but I've seen the Alien Interview documentary. Now that's interesting because it's very you know, the alien autopsy. Well, this is kind of like, this came out the year later, and it's a long story, but basically it's real. I think it's real, whereas I'm pretty sure it's real, whereas the alien autopsy is fake. Sorry, Colin, but it is. Oh, speak of the devil. What a strange piece of synchronicity. Blue Wool, hello. Blue Wool, episode 3 is about the love of lights. Yeah, thanks for posting the link to me earlier, Blue Wool. I will watch it at a certain time. If this particular live stream doesn't go on till midnight again, I will watch it. Oh, thanks, Batch. Thanks, John. I mean, I've the Alien Interview. I've actually seen. I didn't know it was a book as well. I've seen the documentary, and there's a lot of people who looked into it. Sean David Morton, Andrew Burlington, Andrew Burlington unfortunately got sucked into the cement mixture of the Larry Warren controversy, and we're now not on good terms because of it, which is sad. It's really sad. There's so many other people have just been torn up. It's just torn us apart. It's really sad. Where are we? Ben Grizzly, where can I watch Project Blue Book? Now, I didn't post any links to where I saw it because I'm not sure of the legality of it. I don't like to post links to pirated stuff, but I couldn't find anything on the History Channel. It doesn't seem to have its own page on History Channel, but it was on TV, and I don't know if it's on any catch-up sites anywhere on History TV. I couldn't see it. Where are we? Project Blue Book, joke book, a Freemason con, yeah. Diego Rivera, many UFO researchers are government agents. Any ideas, Ben? Well, you see, I know that some of them are. In fact, some of them have admitted it. I mean, it's Richard Doty, who still gets to speak at conferences sometimes. He's admitted it, essentially. Richard Doty is the American equivalent of Nick Pope, kind of. He was an official government UFO investigator. But it turns out he was running a disinformation campaign. It was known as the Benowitz Affair. It's a horrible thing that happened in the 1980s, and it was one of the most disreputable parts of ufology, I think. Hello, Limespecs. Hello, welcome back. Paul Culliford says, watch out for fake invasion. Yeah, the only time the government will talk Turkey. Yeah, I mean, I've often said, and I've said this in the Leeds Exopolitics conference, that one of the things we've got to watch out for is disclosure will probably involve some kind of, and this actually comes out in my book if you're interested in reading my book, my 3 books, my trilogy. The only way they can get out of it is by saying, well, the aliens were hostile all along. Could you please forgive us, because we need to unite to save the planet. That's what I think is what the most likely outcome of disclosure, unfortunately, unless people get wise to it and don't believe them when that happens. Mel O'Brien, so Hynek did call yours the fourth kind. So the fourth kind was a phrase that he coined. Because that's interesting, because some people claim that the fourth kind, fifth kind thing is just an extension of the Hynek scale, which other people have really pasted onto the whole thing. Diego Rivera, why are aliens always portrayed as enemies? They're not always. Funny enough, the way Hollywood has portrayed aliens is interesting, because they were bad, they were evil and bad until you come to like the Spielberg era with Close Encounters and E.T. Now they kind of went bad again with Independence Day, etc. Very strange. Anthony Morn. And that's you've looked into Project Blue. Hynek admitted to it on video. I saw the interview. You won't find it on YouTube. Blocked it. I wonder why. Yeah. Flight of the Navigator I've never seen, Paul. Anyone seen UFO bids on Mouthy Buddha's channel? Yes. They're very interesting. Those ones are very interesting indeed, because he sort of like, he did a great one about Bob Lazar lately, which really was very fair and very balanced. And he comes down on the uncertain side of things, and he's very intellectually honest, Malthi Buddha. Hollywood does play a big part in it, John, because in a sense they admitted that. They actually said in Project Blue Book they wanted to get the media to help, and indeed Disney wanted to go along with it. Mel O'Brien, the aliens don't think like us. They have a bizarre sense of humor. Yeah. That's funny because, I mean, you can't anthropomorphize these things, Mel. I've often said that I think people do make assumptions about them when we shouldn't. They may not think like we do. Limespec says panspermia. That's the idea that there's life everywhere in the universe. Yeah. You might see Professor Chandra with Graham Singh at Leeds Exopolitics. Where are we? More about flat Earth. It'll die down in a minute, I'm sure. The Fourth Kind is abduction, David Schultz. Have you seen the film The Fourth Kind? It's I saw it in the pictures when it first came out. It's like a docudrama, and I thought it was real. I did wonder. I went home in a bit of a shaking and in a bit of a daze, thinking, "Is this real?" And I went online and I did a video at the time about it. Turns out it was faked. It was a docudrama. It wasn't real, but God, it was bloody shocking when I first saw it. I still watch it today and enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. And Mel O'Brien is now repeating their story about the barn. Yeah, the strange thing. And that was recent. That was this evening, Mel. That's just happened, Mel. In your barn. That's strange. Feel free to let me know all your other experiences, or if you have any you want to tell me about. Diego Rivera. Is there an alien war in space between different aliens? Which side are you on? I have no idea. I don't know what war you mean, if it exists. Oh, Limespec says because they can't get past the firmament. Limespec, are you taking the mickey out of the flatheads? Are you really? Are you ridiculing the flatties? Where are we? Space Brew says real aliens who live amongst us are Jews. No, they're not. Firstly, Jews are human, and Jews are not the Illuminati. Please watch this always comes up every live stream, right? Jews are not behind the New World Order. There's no excuse for anti-Semitism. Please watch my video called Jews. I'm glad I made that video, actually, to create that point of reference, because it comes up all the time. Ben, what about the Jews? What are you doing about the Jews? I said, nothing, because the Jews are innocent. Oh, here we go. Right. Diego Rivera. Ben, the Star Wars film Solo was a huge flop. Why don't you get together with the English Bigfoot, become new characters in Star Wars? I never saw Solo. I mean, I felt a bit lukewarm about the last couple of Star Wars films anyway, and I didn't watch any of the others. I did a review of the latest one, the Last Jedi. I did a review of that. Whether I could create some kind of fan fiction movie with the British Bigfoot, I'll have to go into the woods and ask them. Mind you, if I'm looking for someone to play Chewbacca... All right, where are we now? Real life captured. How many units of alcohol do you consume per day, Benjamin? Well, real life captured. I haven't consumed any today. In fact, most days I don't. Mel says. Yeah, I mean, Mel O'Brien is saying that the flat Earth nonsense was borrowed from Game of Thrones. I don't know. Real life capture says, I look like a big drunk man. I'm not drunk. I may be a bit tired. I had to record an interview with someone earlier. I may be a bit on the sleepy side. I'm not drunk. Line specs. What about the Southern Plane? All right, that's something okay, that's you can't fly planes over Antarctica, okay, because if the plane crashed, everyone would freeze to death before the rescuers could get to them. That's why. The North Pole is different. The North Pole is much smaller, and there's air bases nearby, so planes do fly over the North Pole, but you can't fly over the South Pole. It's too remote, too out of the way. Oh, where are we? More about the flat Earth. Ben, that luminous jacket suits you, says Diego Rivera. You've got to take my blue bin this morning. Beep, 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 beep. Neptune returns. Are you involved in this flat Earth debate that's going on? I don't mind. Look, I'm not against flat Earth. People talking flat. People will talk flat Earth if they want. Obviously, I'm on the round Earth side. I don't need to get involved with it because I'm not going to do a special live stream on the flat Earth, because I've done a special Panmo radio show on the flat Earth where I actually took on in debate one of the world's biggest flatheads, that is Mark Sargent. And I think that's all I need to say about it. I mean, I am still a globalist. I have not seen no evidence to suggest the Earth is not round. Mel O'Brien says, when you spoke to Dr. Hynek, he was convinced there is an alien presence. Yeah, he was very much so in his later career. He began sort of very much very cynical about the whole thing, but he changed his mind. Indeed, that is portrayed in the 2 episodes that I've seen so far of Project Blue Book, although both of them are set in 1952 at the start of the project. Hynek took a bit longer to come round, but in this particular film, he's already kind of like getting there, you know. Well, where are we now? Diego Rivera, when is the next Roswell going to happen? Good question. When or where? As I said in the videos I made on the subject, it could be where you live. I reckon if anything like that happened near Oxford, I'd immediately be arrested on a trumped-up charge, because they know the first thing I do is I go down to ground zero and I try to get through the cordon with my camera. Blah blah. Holographic Wondrous Universe seems to have joined the live stream to talk about the flat Earth. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. All right, flat Earth, blah blah. Flat Earth. Now chemtrails, however. All right. Well, Holographic Wondrous Universe. What about chemtrails? Watch Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, I saw him. He believes the Earth is round too. He's actually one of these sort of like nicer skeptics, you know, one of these more. It's funny because I listened to a radio show with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Professor Brian Cox, and Cox was being his usual obnoxious, prickish, effeminate, snide, bitchy self. And Tyson, although he agreed with him, you could hear from his voice Tyson was uncomfortable with his attitude. You really could. Tyson is a kind of skeptic I could deal with, actually. It's the kind of guy I could talk to. Professor Brian Cox, I could never do dialogue with. I couldn't promise you that some assault wouldn't happen on my part. And, that would be the next Panmo TV video will be when I get out of prison. I can't guarantee. I really can't. Because he just winds me up so much, damn him. I never want to have any interaction with him for that reason. Pain and Death says chemtrails are 100% real. Yes, they are. Chemtrails have been made public. Well, Holographic Wondrous Universe, there's been recently some articles talking about how the plans that in theory they do exist. Indeed, the Oxford Martin School actually talks about this. Oh, where are we? Yeah. That Tyson bloke's an actor proven. G. Grieva says aliens are spirits. Well, maybe some of them are, yes. Tina Silver says Trump has displayed the X letter written by Nixon on the wall of his office. It is believed it contains UFOs. It will be opened in 2020. Really? Has he got it on the wall of the Oval Office? Well, Tina, I wish he'd open it now. I mean, unless he builds his wall, he's not going to get re-elected. So, and he's having real trouble getting the wall sorted out. He's got people like Nancy Pelosi and these other people trying to stop him. So it won't be his office for much longer unless he can stay in office, stay in power. Neptune turns. Trump has organised a 9/11 committee. Has he? I heard a bit about that. I don't know how true it was. Yeah, 9/11 committee. I don't know what I heard. I saw things going around on Facebook about that. But we need to, the things that QAnon talks about need to start happening. They really do, because I really want them to happen. Okay, more about the flat Earth. David Schultz says, Ben, what is England's Russia, Europe, and China version of Project Blue Book? The one in England is called, well, it's actually been closed now officially. It was called Secretariat AS2, and it was at the Ministry of Defence, and it was run by Monsieur Nick Pope. Now, there's several other versions in Europe. China apparently has had a UFO project. France had a very active UFO research project, which has been declassified. I don't know about the others. I don't know any details about them apart from the Nick Pope one. All right, more about Tina Silver. It's a grand jury to review the official report. Tina, is that actually happening? Is there going to be a grand jury to review 9/11? Because that could be like the thing that QAnon is talking about. Nell O'Brien, yeah, fourth kind. Greer is someone I don't trust, and I don't like his methods, and I don't like his attitude or him as a person. He's kind of like the Professor Brian Cox of our side. But yeah, the fourth kind thing. Have you seen the film The Fourth Kind? Chemtrails dropping powdered aluminium. Yeah, Paul Culliford, and other things besides, including the pseudo-life stuff that Sophia Smallstorm talks about. What do you mean a reverse Mandela effect? Hang on, I've lost the bloody thing. Hang on. I've got to go back up again. Okay. It's good that Trump's organised a 9/11 committee. What do you mean a reverse Mandela effect? I'm interested in the Mandela effect very much. Diego Rivera, you should be on the Ancient Aliens, Ben. They need a new character on there. Eric Von Daniken is always on it. We get Eric, the gods came from the stars. The thing is, I wouldn't be able to talk about that with the kind of expertise. I mean, I do think about that, and there's something in it. But I can't. I've not done what Eric Von Daniken is. He's written 10 books on the subject. It's very, very interesting. I remember I read one of his early books when I was a kid at school. It was in the school library. I couldn't believe it. I got it out and renewed it about a dozen times because I kept watching it. More about the flat Earth. Paul Culliford, Ben, what do you think of 5G? I think it's an electromagnetic weapon designed to disrupt the the workings of the human brain and body. It's been done deliberately. It can be put in anything. They can put it into bus shelters. They can put it into street lamps. They can have one right outside your house, and they don't need planning permission. And it's irradiating. Its frequency and its wavelength and its amplitude are all specifically perfect as an electromagnetic weapon to create chronic health problems in humans, including mental and physical illnesses. Anthony Moore, some twat in America invented 5G, probably someone in the CIA. So Mel, you grew up in Cork, grew up in Toronto. I had my first contact in Canada with someone who's a famous actor now. Was it Mel Gibson? Because I know he's very, and some Dan Aykroyd as well. They're very open to this sort of thing. Dan Aykroyd actually did something called Dan Aykroyd on UFOs. It's a very good documentary where he talks openly about his belief in UFOs. Dan Aykroyd was in Ghostbusters. He was a stand-up comedian as well, had a successful comedy career, and he's been in a couple of movies and TV series, and he's bravely speaking out again about this sort of thing, which of course is very difficult if you're a celebrity and you speak out about things. It's worse than, say, me. All I get done is people poke fun of me who know me. If you're in the public eye, there's millions of people who know you, and they're all poking fun at you as you're walking down the street. So well done to those guys, Mel Gibson and Dan Aykroyd, for speaking out. Antiseptic says, Ben, what do you think of DMT? I think it's very interesting. I've got a copy of DMT, The Spirit Molecule by Richard Strassman, and Supernatural by Graham Hancock. Those books really, really are very, very enlightening about DMT. Diego Rivera. Seems like Israel wants to start World War III. My goodness. They've been wanting to start World War III since that arrogant and aberrant fiefdom was created. Paul Culliford, it's not climate change, it's climate control by the elite. Yes, Paul, I've got a feeling they're artificially warming the earth now. Because they know they know people aren't going to believe it's happening naturally, so they'll do it artificially. I think this heat wave in Australia might be an example of that. Eman Puadima. Have you heard of Ralph Ellis's idea that the Great Pyramid of Giza is a copy of K2? Yeah. I don't know if that's true. Neptune returns. Israel is a terrorist state. It is indeed, and it's actually not a legitimate state. It's a big subject, but basically Israel was created artificially out of Palestine. Palestine was in the British imperial days, then became independent, but it was actually ironically, Palestine was a Jewish homeland. There was synagogues there was kibbutzim, there was all the things you get in Israel there. And there was also a fairly good relationship between the Palestinians and the Jews, the Sephardic Jews who lived there. It's not an ancient conflict. The conflict emerged in 1947 or 1948 when Israel was created. By the way, if the recording of this live stream somehow disappears because I said that, it's you'll know why. Tina, I'll read your review of Ralph Ellis's book. I read a little bit of King Jesus, but I've not heard of this. I have seen him lecture on the K2 thing, and I don't know how true it is. Ellis should hang around here for Ralph Ellis. He's an interesting chap, actually. Mel O'Brien. 2 black unmarked helicopters have flown over this farm, no more than 50 feet above the ground. I took photos. If you've took photos, send them to me, Mel. I'd be interested to see them. Someone called Untipo Criella says, Gordo Demir. Now, I know what Gordo means, and I know you're a troll and you're taking the piss out of me. I know enough Spanish to know what Gordo means, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And Eric Cartman, that's a character from South Park. Anthony Moore says Nick Pope's a wanker, spelled with a. He is. However you actually spell the word, yes, he is. I've had to block him actually after some of the, because he's really, funny enough, he's like come down on the side of the Larry Warren trolls, but unlike them, he has the ability to know the sort of facts behind it, and he's sort of like you. He's still letting them say their piece without correcting them, which is very, very sinister. I think I've got a feeling Nick Pope is like the brains behind the whole thing. Mark Sargent isn't mysteriously mistaken that the Earth is flat. Yes, he is. Oh, he puts it out as deliberate disinfo. Oh my goodness me! All right. No, the flatheads are not necessarily. I mean, I know people say flat. The Earth. It's a psyop. That's Richard D. Hall. It's a psyop. No, I mean, I've looked into the background of this flat Earth craze, and it comes from Eric Dubé's book. I don't think it's a psyop. But this is not to say. I don't think it was created as a psyop. This is not to say there aren't people, psychological operatives in the government who aren't watching to see what happens and taking advantage of this opportunity to see how we respond to this flat Earth nonsense. So it could be like an unintentional psyop that Eric Dubé's book has been kind of subverted as an act of opportunism. And yeah, there's been 2 deaths in football, really. Yeah, one chairman was killed in a helicopter. Now a player's been killed in an airplane crash. Yeah, that odd. There was that guy. It was that Chinese guy, wasn't it? Derby. Was it Derby County? Crashed in his helicopter. It was coming into land at the stadium. Luckily, it didn't land on the stadium, and no one was hurt on the ground. But he and everyone on it was killed. Everyone on the helicopter was killed. And now there's been a plane crash somewhere in the Channel Islands with a new a new sign up for Cardiff City. Can't remember his name. That is odd, actually. The story, actually, of what happened with the plane. I mean, it reminds me of Fred Valentich, but I don't know if I'm not saying there's anything UFO related to the plane incident, but if there is, people need to know. Tina Silver, Steven Spielberg's series Taken was based on Project Blue Book, supposedly. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's a great series. It's really good. It's about basically a family that are being abducted a lot, you know. Neptune returns. Football is for morons. No, it's not. It's a great game. I mean, I don't support a team, but I do like football. More Flat Earth. Antonio Sabutio. Yeah, Sabutio's the table football game. Flat Earth. Oh, that's a Flat Earth comment. Freemasons in football. I mean, there's Freemasons everywhere. I mean, Glenn Hoddle is a Freemason, I think. Anthony Moore. Larry Warren, a true American hero. Yes, he is. Got a lot of respect for Larry. There's an awful lot of nonsense being told about him at the moment, and it's all going to come out, and I'll cover that in a future video, or more than one future video. Provocator PL says, hello from Poland. Hello. Thank you, Provocator, if I pronounce that right properly. Neptune returns. Is Larry Warren flat? No, he's round. No. Yeah, he's. I'm all about the flat Earth. People, you see, this flat Earth thing can get under people's skin, can't they? More flat Earth. Where are we now? Flat Earth. Pro-O, you're from Warsaw. Hello, Pro-O. Can I say call you Pro-O for short? All these mentions of Nick Pope are making me reach for the Rennies. Pope's a wanker, yeah. Jolly Cowpatch. Hello, beware of Pied Pipers. Yeah. Tina Silva, our country's already been invaded by aliens, illegal immigrants. Well, I mean, the illegal immigrants are actually, yeah, I mean, in a way, but the illegal immigrants are not, they're not the instigators. They are kind of like the tools, as I explained in the last live stream, actually. The whole thing, and I've said this several times before, the whole thing is being made to happen. It's not being allowed to happen. They're not, the illegal immigrants are not invading our countries. They are being brought into our countries by the government. The invasion is the invaders are the actual government. They are treasonous globalists pretending to be the leaders of our nations. The Earth is round. Yes, I agree. Third Rock from the Sun. Yeah, that was good. Third Rock from the Sun, Tina, was really good. I really enjoyed that. I think, apart from Red Dwarf, it's probably the funniest of these space comedies. Mellow Brian. Thomas Sheridan has a good video on soccer occultism. I've not seen that, but I'm a big fan of Thomas Sheridan, so I'll check that out. Pro-O is speaking in Polish there. Professor Fez. Ben, my good fellow, talk like Charles, please. All right, then. I do, people, man. I do them. I use my main powers to do them. I play golf, man, with professionals, and I slaughter them, man. Will that do, Professor Fez? Okay, where are we now? Tina Silva, men are from Mars, women from Venus, aliens are from... Oh, wow. I think women and men are both from Earth. I'm very glad to hear it, because it'd be a bit boring otherwise. Aliens, well... There's artificial structures on Mars, isn't there, Tina? There's things like the pyramids and stuff like that. Yeah. So whether it's aliens or what they are, but there was life on Mars in the distant past. And I suspect it was intelligent life. It's capable of building things, and it was, of course, Mars then changed into the dead world it is today, and all that life was killed. Yeah. Mel O'Brien, I know what you mean about Hynek, yeah, the fourth kind thing, but you said that Hynek told you the fourth kind. Yeah, he's the one who told you that what was happening was the fourth kind. So it went up from the third kind to the fourth kind. That's interesting, yeah. Aliens are from America, are they? Well, there's aliens in Area 51. More about arguments from... about the flat Earth. Most Jews are Aryans, said Mel. Well, Jews actually are. They're not actually a racial group. They can be anything. I mean, there's Jews who are, in terms of their DNA, they are all kinds of things. I mean, Judaism is a belief system, and it's a culture that covers the whole world in many ways. Like the Sephardic Jews from from Palestine, when Palestine was a Jewish homeland, before the whole thing was messed up by the Rothschild, and the terrorist state, as it was called, was created. And it is a terrorist state. They're always bombing people. They're always trying to start wars. They're always carrying out false flag attacks. As Mossad, as the motto of Mossad is "We shall do war by deception." So Jews are even within their belief system, they argue a lot. They have lots of different ideas. As I was saying last week, there's no way Jews could ever be involved in a conspiracy because they can't even agree amongst themselves about anything. They're continuously debating with themselves on the nature of God and whether they're Reformed Jews or secular Jews or Orthodox Jews. It's the idea that someone like that could create a conspiracy is absolute nonsense. I didn't make that point in my Jews film, which I should have done, but I'm making it now. TK, hello, live Hapanwo, yes. Anthony Bourne is in an argument with Pain and Death, and I think it's about the last one. I'm not going to get between you guys. You're giving each other as good as you get. Iman Padwini says Jews are innocent is an absurd generalization. No, it's not. Actually, no. I'll clarify. It's like saying humans are innocent or humans are guilty. So it is a generalization in a way, because some people who are Jews might be involved in the New World Order, but then the point is they are not involved in the New World Order because they are Jews any more than they're involved in the New World Order because they're humans or reptilians. That's what I mean by Jews are innocent. So I get your point, and you're right. Oh, right. Where are we now? Anthony, calm down. All right, I'm gonna have to delete that comment, all right, because you're making actual threats here against people. Where are we now? Hugo Rune, hi Hugo, how are you? Nice, thanks for joining us. Ben, I've watched your videos on the Jews, and you seem to think you have said the final answer on the Jews. I disagree with you, but if I challenge you, you'll direct me to watch your vid on Jews. Well, look, Hugo, if you've watched the vid on Jews and you disagree with me, that's fine. I mean, someone else I know, a good friend of mine, actually watched that video and disagreed with me and came up with some points to disagree with. And I actually met him in Oxford. He came up to see me in Oxford, and we had a discussion about it. And I think I addressed the points he made, but at the end we still didn't agree, but we remained good friends. So sure, I mean, if you disagree, that's fine. But I mean, I did debate it with this guy. He's not a bad bloke. I think he's misled, but I don't think he's evil. I don't think he'd harm anyone. He's just got the wrong idea. Pain and Death is now all right. All right, Pain and Death and Anthony Morn, you need to calm down now. All right, it's going too far. Sort it out by private message or email. TK, I heard today that the NHS paid some guy over £1,000 to be a speaker at their motivational conference for their staff. Oh yeah, if you're going to talk nonsense about nonsense, you get paid a fortune in the NHS. The only time they only pay people next to nothing if you're actually essential, like if you're a nurse or a porter or a junior doctor, then you get paid peanuts. But if you want to put on a suit and carry a clipboard around and become like a quality enforcement assessment officer or something, then you get a big corner office and you get a big salary and a company car. Oh, it's pathetic. Oh, I miss it less and less every day. Mr. Mann said, I went to see Mary Queen of Scots in the pictures the other night, Ben. I walked out after counting 6 black people in the first 20 fucking minutes. Oh, I see. So they diversified, diversified the whole thing. Now, Westby says you are a racist. No. It's not racism to complain about this. It's simply realism, and it's simply not. If you're doing a historical drama set in Elizabethan England, you should have an all-white cast. In the same way that if you're doing a video set in Africa, in a place in Africa, you should have an all-black cast. Anything else, it's not racism. It's complaining in favor of realism against political correctness. So Westby, Mr. Man's not a racist for being irritated by that. Honestly, he's not. Yeah, 16th century England, exactly, Mr. Man. Westby, it's not fair, all right? Right. Diego Rivera, Zionism is the New World Order. Go to a Masonic temple, you'll find a recreation of the Temple of Solomon. No, it's not. Zionism is Zionism is a tool of the New World Order. The New World Order covers lots of things. Oh, Westby, for goodness sake. Westby is now calling Diego Rivera anti-Semitic. No, stop that. Criticism of Israel and Zionism is not hatred or criticism of Jews. Jews are one thing, right? Jews are here. Zionism and Israel is another thing entirely. This is actually a scam by Mossad, who've actually said they are trying to smear anyone who criticizes Israel a Jew hater, an anti-Semite. So if you complain about them dropping bombs on Gaza and killing children, you hate Jews. You deny the Holocaust, you want a new Holocaust, etc., etc., etc. And when you say things like that, you're helping them. And Westby says, you are gay. Who, me? I'm not actually, but if I was, I would just tell you. I wouldn't hide it, would I? Drone 2. Hindus worship disabled aliens, do they? Westby, you are a fascist. Oh, shut up, Westby. Professor Fez says you don't have to make a live stream about the flat Earth. They all turn into. No, I'm happy to tolerate the flat Earth, even people talking about it in this comment section. But I am not doing any more videos or radio shows about the bloody flat Earth. Well, I might do one more because someone's asked me about it. But the actor Tyson says the Earth is pear-shaped. Humans were created by stupid aliens, says Drone to you. Oh, right. Hugo Ruin says, but Ben, you agree with everything Brian, who's a pretty boy then, Cox says. Hugo, I agree with nothing he says. Every time he opens his mouth, he spouts the most incredible drivel. And it's not just what he says, it's the way he says it. It's his arrogance. It's his contempt he has for people basically on our side of things. That's what I can't stand. As I said, Neil deGrasse Tyson agrees with Professor Brian Cox on almost everything, but he's polite. He is respectful and he is professional. Cox is none of those things. Cox is an arrogant sucker of the media cop. He's a massive publicity BBC whore, and he's a horrible, slimy faced, shiny skinned little toad. And I loathe him, and I never want to. As I said, don't let me near him. All right. Crime prevention. Just don't ever arrange meetings with the two of us together. That's not a threat. I'm just a suggestion of crime prevention. TK, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I just can't stand him. Professor Fez says the ancient Chinese knew the Earth was round. The Egyptians knew it was round. Even Plato calculated the circumference right within 20 miles. I don't think it was Plato. I think it was Eratosthenes. But you're right. They all it's this idea. They used to think the Earth was flat, and then Columbus proved it was round. No, the idea of the spherical Earth goes back into antiquity, and the flat Earth was like a competing theory. E-Man says, I think the Temple Solomon stuff is allegorical. There's been a strong connection between Freemasonry and Zionism. I don't know enough about that. I've read a book on Freemasonry. I've read 2 books on Freemasonry, but I don't know. Freemasonry is older than Zionism. It is. Freemasonry goes back to the ancient world in various forms. Please read a book called Born in Blood. Drone to you says Trump is an alien. Well, in that case, he's one of the benevolent Pleiadians. Mr. Man. Why can't they make a remake of Zulu with thousands of ginger people charging Chinese British soldiers? Exactly, Mr. Man. I'll tell you what, if that happened, I would walk out. I mean, this is this crazy stuff about how, oh, you're a sexist if you don't like the new Doctor Who because it's a woman. All right. No, or you're a racist because you don't like the extra black people. They put black people in places where you wouldn't normally have. They have black thespians to play these people, and it's like Oh, I'm going to go up. Where am I? Oh, let's just slip to the bottom again like it does every now and again. Trump is an alien. Okay. Honestly, if they remade Eddie Murphy's films with a white actor playing the characters he did, I'd be horrified. I'd be mortified by that. Joan, to your cap is too small for your big head. It's the one. No. It's. I think I find it quite comfortable actually. Professor Fez says, "No, Ben. The Nixon letter was some subscription bullshit put out by dark journalists, was it? Oh, I hope not." Paul Culliford, have you ever heard of Dr. Judy Wood? And he spells Heard like Douglas Heard. Have I heard of her? Yes, I have. And I've mentioned her many times on this particular live stream. And I very much recommend watching and reading everything she's ever done. She has solved 9/11, basically. It's that simple. 69 Phuket, hello. Life is subject to Article 50. It's being postponed. Yes. Very droll, 69. New man about Professor Ralph Ellis is right. The Temple of Solomon was never in Israel. No, was it in Britain or something? I know that he said Jesus lived in Chester. Right. Greer is addicted to steroids. GJP2. I'm 62 years old and I can bench 46. Greer is a con man. Ben, Ben Grizzly says he's a con man. I actually do. I don't know if I think he's maybe so narcissistic he can't see it, but he does mislead, and he does. I think his business practices are immoral. And Mel O'Brien has said it as well enough that he's just an arrogant, narcissistic twat, basically. His films, his first videos were really good, but his new one, the one he did called Sirius, was just stupid. It was just shot after shot of him wearing tight jeans. Oh, there we are. The theory of relativity, says Mel, based on two assumptions. Right. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about relativity. Maybe Hugo Rune can actually go into that, because I know these are different. Anthony Moore, Greer is addicted to his green shirt and his mirror. To his mirror, certainly. God. Life is subject to 50 here. The Mandela effect is another disinfo campaign. No, it's not. It's real. I'm not. I'm a Looney Tunes guy personally, and I'll say a lot more about that. But the Mandela effect is becoming more common. If they build this new Large Hadron Collider, it's going to happen everywhere, I reckon. All right, okay. One of videos from Underground says one of Sophia Smallstorm's videos got taken off my channel. Why was that held in review? Michelson Morley were unable to determine. Mel O'Brien, yeah. Do you know that they attributed the changing result to bad test equipment and fixed the speed of light without proving it correct? Mel O'Brien, their experiment was repeated and they got different results. But by that time, unfortunately, Einstein had published his special relativity and he was now in fashion. So therefore, the repeated experiments never got any publicity. But you're right. They absolutely did find the ether in the end. Videos from the Underground. Jim Fetzer, too. Jim Fetzer is a guy, he's written a couple of good books. I know Andrew Johnson doesn't trust him, and to be honest, I don't like the way he treats Dr. Judy Wood. I really don't, and I wouldn't hedge my bets on anything he says, but I'm willing to read what he has to say. I know that my friend Anne Walsh is writing a chapter for his book. Another one, Nick Colostrom, has written a couple of chapters for his books. Things like that. Mel, yeah, I mean, don't name people without, obviously, I never name people without permission. Mandela effect is stupid people forgetting things, says TK. No, it's not. That's conflation. Memory has errors, and you lose when you have to remember things from a long time ago. You remember it wrong. Like if you see a film you haven't seen for 25 years, it's going to be different to how you remember it. That's conflation. The thing about the Mandela effect is you get millions of people everywhere conflating the same thing. That can't be true. Eric Sykes did he speak about UFOs? Renting a house in Oldham, it's got more holes than 9/11. Yeah. Greer is Kermit the Frog, says Fez. I thought that was Jordan, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Lime Specs, bye. Night. Thanks for posting, Lime Specs. DMT, fantastic drug. Yeah, there's a couple of really good books on DMT. I've never tried it myself, and I wouldn't necessarily, or necessarily knew what I was doing. But yeah. Bye, Lime Specs. Thank you for posting. Ben says, David Schultz, have you viewed the TV film The UFO Incident 1975 based on the interrupted journey, the story of alien abduction of Betty and Barney Hill? Yes, I have. It's very good. Very good film with it's a really good movie where the guy who plays Barney, what's his name? The guy with the deep voice. It's an excellent movie, and there's a new book just been written about it. Stanton Friedman and I can't remember names. What's her bloody name? Kathleen. What's her name? Betty Hill's niece writes this book. Kathleen Marden. James Earl Jones is the name of the actor who plays Barney, and it's a very, very good. You get it on YouTube. It's a couple of copies of it. They're not very good quality, but please do watch The Interrupted Journey. Supposedly the first ever alien abduction. It's not. It's the first that was widely publicized, and Betty and Barney Hill spoke out publicly about it very bravely, and that's basically what raised public interest in the whole thing. Hodder's music videos says, why do you have a tinfoil dunce hat in the background? Well, you have to watch my Oxford tour in my Dreaming Saucers series of videos, and you'll see. Where are we? Let's talk about DMT, how to obtain DMT. Be careful with DMT, guys. Just let you know. You treat it respectfully, take it with caution. Professor Fez says, Ben, ice core samples have long since proven that climate change is a natural cycle. Yes, it is. 335 years-ish. There's several cycles, and some of them are random, such as the medieval warm period, and then there's the little ice age. But yeah, it's been proven. But the problem is climate change is too useful for the New World Order because it gives them a chance to tax people, carbon taxes, to create international authoritarian regulations such as the Paris Accord, and of course Agenda 21. Because you have to have the New World Order because you don't want the world to die, do you? Israel says Lady Gaga should speak out about UFOs. They won't call her Gaga. Well, you can just imagine, can't you? You could just imagine if Lady Gaga ever said anything about UFOs, if she knows anything about them. The kind of puns people would make of her name. 69 Phuket. Gordos, I know. That's why I've just blocked that idiot. Mel O'Brien, you can't trust anyone with a military background, particularly Nick Pope. That's right. Nick Pope was a military defense official. Now, I'm not saying that's not a reason to definitely distrust somebody, but it is a reason to be suspicious. I mean, Richard Doty worked for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, again, which again had this UFO division within it, and Doty was involved in this. But what Doty did was he spent his time basically spreading lies into the UFO community using several patsies, part of this Avery spy network, such as Paul Benowitz and William Moore. It's a horrible thing, that is. David Schultz, what do you think of the film Fire in the Sky? It's all, apart from the abduction scene, it's pretty good, but the thing is, the abduction scene was all wrong. I mean, I much more recommend the documentary Travis. That's very good. Steve Henry, hello. I live in Alabama. 6 days ago, I started running. First, I ran to the grocery store, then I ran to a different town. So I decided to run to Mississippi. I even have over 10 people running with me. Steve, you're like Forrest Gump. Let me know how you get on. I'll keep a scrapbook of your newspaper reports. Right, so where are we going? More about the flat Earth. I'm going to keep on. I ran, just like Jenny told me to. Hugo Roo says, I have a military background. I bought myself out. Well, yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, it's don't mistrust people who have a military background. I mean, I was in the Royal Navy, albeit just for 4 months, but I was in it. You trust me, don't you? I mean, it's not government. Associations with the government are dodgy. But I mean, I was, like I said, after the Royal Navy, I got into hospital portering. So I was in the NHS and I was there for 23 years. So until 2012, I was a completely lifetime government employee, government person working right within the entire heart of the beast sort of thing. But that's not a reason. It's just a reason to be suspicious of some people in certain circumstances, not to actually reject everything they say. So Hugo Rune, I do trust. I mean, he seems like an interesting person. He seems to have his heart in the right place and his brain in the right place. Whether we agree on everything, probably not, but so what? Looking forward to the next Flat Earth chat. Right, what's this? Professor Fez says there's some... Oh, no, I'm not going to... No, I can't... Okay, I can't click that link or I'll end the live stream, Professor Fez, but there's something about black helicopter photos. Ancient Ravenhill Merchant, 1968. Hi, that's a long name. Can I call you Ancient? Ben, what can we do about 5G if it's so dangerous? Well, there's a guy called Mark Steele who's campaigning against it. You can join one of the various campaign groups against it. You can also, there's several ways you can build Faraday cages. If you do it right, you can actually protect yourself in various ways. Put them around your property and things like that. It's best to do that with a smart meter. I'm working on one for the smart meter they're installing in this place. 69 Phuket. Was the baller's voice message fake? Oh, do you mean Ty? What, straight away? Just what? That you're talking about the guy who got the strange voicemail. Yeah. Watch my which one of my it was the last but one UFO disclosure videos. The history has been made one, and I do an entire segment on that. Mr. Man, Machine Elves. That was Terence McKenna who talked about that, wasn't it? There's some more talk about. There's some more talk about DMT. Hugo Rune said, "I was a simple squaddy, a corporal." Yeah, there's people in the military, in the armed forces, or in the Ministry of Defence. 90% of them are just people doing a job like anyone else would do, and unless they have need to know and they're directly involved, they don't know anything about more UFOs than anyone else, and they certainly wouldn't not involved in any cover-up. David Schultz, speaking of Flat Earth, what are your thoughts of Project Bluebeam? Well, David, I don't think Project Bluebeam is related to Flat Earth. The Project Bluebeam is a way of projecting lifelike three-dimensional images in the sky, and it may well be used for a fake alien invasion agenda that could be coming up. Everyone thought it might happen at the 2012 Olympics. Indeed, I was pretty sure it would. But it's something that could be used to produce like a fake second coming of Jesus or Muhammad or something. Professor, we are silly kayak ourselves. Right. More about talk about DMT. Mel O'Brien says, you almost enlisted in the US Army to go to Vietnam and get US citizenship, and you came to Los Angeles. Yeah, that's it. Well, it's sometimes things can be blessings in disguise. There's a spider behind you. No, Ben, treasonous flattest. Oh, are you off, Anthony Morn? Bye. Take care. Thanks for calling. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Maybe my Charles impression. Charles is sort of disappeared off the scene now. After he sent me a rude voicemail on Skype, and then I've not seen him since. Paul Coleford, what do you think of Gary McKinnon? Well, Paul, basically, I think he's the real deal. I believe him. I met him actually last year at UFO Truth Magazine conference. Yeah, I think he's a very interesting chap. I've watched many of his videos, and I think he's I think he's really, really good. Mel, yes, State of Israel is not a legal state. No, it's not. It's not anti-Semitic to say that. It's just simply a fact. It's not. UN can go screw itself. Yes, indeed. Hypermancunians. I said, I read a book by, E-Man says, I read a book by a Jewish academic called Jacqueline Rose, A Question of Zion. She argued that Zionism went back to the Messianic prophets. Well, they claim that. They claim that it's from the Old Testament and stuff like that, but it's the Promised Land and all that stuff. But that's what Palestine is, you see. They're not doing God's work by creating a Rothschild fiefdom, as David Icke has explained. It's not helping Jews. It's not a Jewish homeland at all. Yeah. All religion is evil control system. Oh my God, Mr. Man, Ben, can you see Uranus if you squat on a mirror? You've been watching Patrick Moore, haven't you? Yes. On tonight's program, we're going to talk about Uranus. There are rings around Uranus and moons behind Uranus, so we'll be probing into Uranus. Uranus is a gas giant. Oh, there he goes. I can accept that they're not involved in any kinds because they're Jews. Kind of. I think their particular reasons usually connected with them being Jews. No, it's not. Really, literally, it's not. I'm certain of that. Bronto Max, where do you get all the bitching ambient music for your vids? Well, I get them from the Free Music Archive, which Windows Media Player always suggests. There's one composer particularly I like is Chris Zabriskie. I always put credits on my videos where I use free music because they have attribution licenses. Mellow Bright says, the head rabbi on BBC TV says Abraham, Moses and David and the rest were myths created to unite the Hebrew people. They're not historical figures. Well, people say that about a lot of people in the past, actually. There's people who claim that Jesus was not real. It's just a story. There's people who claim some of the Roman emperors weren't real people. And it's rather like, if you ever read 1984, where Winston Smith at the Ministry of Truth, he has to make up a war hero, a guy called Ogilvy. And he writes these media reports about the heroism of Ogilvy. But it turns out that he says that Ogilvy, once my reports are in the media, it'll become as much a historical figure as Charlemagne or someone like that. Yet he's a complete fabrication. There's no such person as Ogilvy. Neil Desprendum, hello. If you mean by the head rabbi, do you mean Jonathan Sachs, the chief rabbi? Because I quite like him. He did a very, very good debate with Richard Dawkins, and he completely trounced the guy. It was very, very good. And they end up sort of like almost agreeing. By the way, I'm going to another such debate pretty soon. That's probably my next video. 69 feet, but ambient music, probably his cell lights. Jesus grew up in Britain, and his father was Antipas, the first son of Herod. Hugo Rune, it's funny, Ralph Ellis says that. Tina Silver says slaves were in England from King Charles the first time. That's right, yeah. If you want to make an accurate historical drama from that period, you could have black people in the cast playing the slaves. That would make it historically accurate. I remember they did that in Rob Roy. They have lots of like black servants. It's set in Scotland in like I think in the 17th century, and they have lots of black servants there everywhere. Yeah. Of course, all the main characters in Rob Roy's gang are white because they're Scottish people in 17th century. Neil Desprendum, Jesus grew up in Nazareth. Yeah, I think Jesus was real actually. There's some contemporary texts and stuff like that. But Mellow Bright says Jesus was not a historical figure. He's a myth created. Oh, right. Well, several people have said this. Yeah. But I doubt it actually. But I think a lot of the stories told about him were fake. Like obviously he wasn't born to a virgin mother. Horus and all the others were as well. And he probably wasn't born on 25th of December. Again, that's solar worship. All these savior gods are born on that day. Lots of other things about him were not true. I think he was probably a psychic medium and a healer and a spiritual teacher. He probably was married to Mary Magdalene. He probably did have children, as you see in like the Da Vinci Code and the Rennes-le-Chateau mystery. Mr. Man, thank you, Ben. Okay, no problem. Partly mythic, yeah, that's what I think. The Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten was the first monotheist. Yeah, that's interesting now, yeah. Although Jungle Surfer thinks the ancient Egypt was created as in the 18th century by the British Empire. That bloke's unbelievable. Tina Silver, the Roman army occupation in Britain was multiracial. Yes, it was. There was that's right, because the Romans used to bring people in from foreign shores into certain provinces, so they wouldn't get sentimental about the people who lived there. There was lots of units, actually. There was some from Gaul and some were from further afield. There was a lot of fuss a couple of years ago, because there was like a cartoon series where there was a couple of black people, and the Roman centurions were black and stuff like that. A lot of people said that was just political correctness, and I actually thought that for a while, Tina, but it turns out it wasn't. It was actually historically accurate. In which case, I mean, if you really want to make a story about Roman Britain, you could have black people in there playing some of the soldiers. That would be accurate. Neil Desperano says, I wonder if this is why some of you people are more inclined to buy wholesale some of the more wacky conspiracy theories going today. Well, wacky is an adjective. It's not an argument. Gotta go back up now. Where was I? I'm almost caught up now. Ben Grizzy, apparently there's no UK broadcast for Project Blue Book. Well, there's Nick Pope, but I mean, Project Blue Book's American. But Hugo, tell me one in physics you disagree with Brian Cox. Oh, Hugo. Oh, Hugo, watch my video called Brian. What was it? Oh God. CERN disproves ghosts. That's a start. That's a good start. Yeah. I'm willing to be just Satan is a master and all doing. Neil Desperado, Satan is a master doing all people's hearts. Neil Desperado, you're not Carl Mumford, are you? You're not Carl Mumford under another name. And Amun Ra, yeah, Mel says about Amun Ra, the sun god. Yeah, that's right. Amen. 69 Fugate. Ben Hur was from California. Oh, that was Charlton Heston. Bronto Max, Ben, where do you get the ambient music for your vids? I just said the free music archive from Windows Movie Maker. I credit everything on my videos if you want to know who composes what. Hello, Brian. Meet the Sacred Mushrooms on the Cross by Dr. Don Allegra. Right. Researcher of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah. Mellow Brian, I know what you mean about Mithra and stuff like that. The idea that Jesus is a saviour God born to a Virgin Mary on December 25th, 12 disciples. Yeah, that's a recurring theme in mythology to do with saviour gods. But this doesn't mean I think Jesus did exist, but he's had fake stories told about him from the Council of Nicaea when the Roman Empire adopted Christianity. Professor Fez, are you saying you would want to put Cox into a wood chipper? No, Professor Fez, I don't. This is Steve Mumbling talks about that. I'm not that much against him, and as you know, I was basically the reason I'm not replying to Steve Mumbling anymore was because of his attitude in the last video and saying things like that. That's just hateful. Well, I do. You know, I hate Cox, but I'm not obsessed with him. I don't literally want to do him any harm. I just want to call him names. I want to call him what he is. Oh, where are we? Right. Yes, right, Iman. Parallels with Horus for Jesus, yes. Mr. Man, Jesus was white. Jesus probably was not white, actually. Jesus was probably the racial group you find in the Middle East. He's probably dark-skinned, Caucasoid, kind of, which is like everyone else in that part of the world. Right. Yeah, Iman talks about Philo. Philo actually lived in Jerusalem, you know, at the time Jesus was supposed to be there, and never actually saw him, never actually mentions him, even though he describes the city in detail and records the newsworthy events. That is interesting, yeah. Horus was supposed to be born on December the 25th. Yes, he was, and that's because it's the third morning after the winter solstice in the north, the northern winter solstice. All these saviour gods are born on December the 25th. That's the thing. It's not Jesus. Jesus might have been. There's a 365 to 1 chance that Jesus was born on that day. We don't know when his birthday was. Videos from underground. Cultural Marxism has taken over. Sad. Resist. Yeah, we have to resist it. Right, Professor Fez. Dark journalist strung out the Nixon time capsule letter, promising a big reveal. Absolutely nothing. Well, Professor, this is rather like some of the things QAnon has brought up. Like, there's the indictments are going to be opened after the midterm elections, and they haven't been yet. And honestly, I am finding my patience wearing thin. And I mean, if it's true, yeah, but I want to get on with it. Come on, Trumpy, get moving, take down the cabal, end the deep state, please. And there may be reasons why there's a delay, but I'm just so like, I know it's just... Mel, it's true about crucifixion. We covered that last week, yeah. Neil says the Antichrist claims about as legit as man-made global warming. Mr. Mann, Ben, do you think the imminent ice age will reset the shit show of planet Earth next 30 years, apparently? Well, you see, I don't know if there's going to be an ice age. I mean, it's you see, the problem with climate change now is it's so politicized that all the data is being fiddled with, like the hockey stick hoax. There's geoengineering at work as well, which is probably artificially doing things to the Earth's temperature. Who knows what will happen now with climate change so incredibly in the middle of the New World Order agenda. Professor Fest, sorry, the Mandela effect is nonsense. No, it's not. You do remember having hair 5 years ago. Well, I didn't have hair 5 years ago, so you're either conflating that, but you may be one of these hair people who all remember seeing me with hair 5 years ago, in which case it proves the Mandela effect is real. TK. Gary McPherson. Gary McPherson reckons it's all going to be over within 5 years. Why doesn't Gary McPherson just jump off a cliff or something? I mean, well, you know why? Because people are paying him to go around the world. He sits in front of audiences and says how we're all doomed. The problem is he's been doing this since about 2005, and he always says we've got about 5 years left. So we should have all been dead by 2010 when he started out. He said that the North Pole ice cap would be completely gone by 2015. Still there. It's shrunk, but indeed it does. It goes through cycles of shrinking and growing. The polar bears survive it. It's not a problem. But all his predictions have been wrong. Yet he's still going around saying we're doomed. He's got this. McPherson has this really strange obsession with destruction and death. It's like, it's just unbelievable. He's like the guy who wrote that book Requiem for a Species. Like, they're glorifying it all. If you actually got that guy down and explained to him how global warming was wrong, he'd be incredibly disappointed. He'd be going, "Oh no, you mean you've ruined my nightmare? We're all going to live? Oh God, no! What am I going to do for a living now? What can I talk about? The hundreds of people will pay me to sit and listen to." All right, Mel O'Brien. I don't know. Dark Journalist, I think, is he just talks about. I've not watched all his shows, but I do quite like his UFO ones and things like that. Oh, where are we? TK. There's methane emissions, right? Methane hydrates are continuously being released into the atmosphere through decomposition of bodies and through animal digestion. In other words, it's farting. Methane hydrates is fart gas. It's constantly being released. Indeed, methane hydrates are being released from the seabed in various different places due to landslides. It's been blamed for some of the destructions of the Bermuda Triangle. Oh man, it's like a video from the underground. Mandela was put in jail because his followers did terrible things, yet he's a hero. The Mandela effect. No. The Mandela effect is the people remember him dying in jail in 1986, and they remember it so clearly. Yeah, I know he was jailed because he and the MK were planning terrorist attacks and things like that. So yeah, Nelson Mandela is not. I'm not saying he's a monster that the far right think he is, but at the same time, he's not the angel. He's not the saint that the left think he is either. So he like Nelson Mandela is like most other people in the world. He's a mixture. He's a mixture of good and bad. He's a complicated, fallible flawed human being. History tends to make angels and demons out of people, doesn't it? It tends to say they're either complete monsters like Adolf Hitler and Stalin and people like that, and they're a complete wonderful angels like Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela and Winston Churchill. Aren't they lovely? No, they're all the good people. All the good guys I've just told you have dark sides. All the bad people I just told you about have good sides. That's the truth. History is politicized. Nelson Mandela was politicized. Yeah. Where are we now? Lady Gaga says Professor Fair. So I'm going to skip a few of these because I'm getting tired. Sorry, I don't want to go until midnight. Lady Gaga was filmed contacting UFOs at SETI. It was called Radio Gaga. They're already beginning. They're already starting. We pioneered in the live stream. Very good. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. All right. There's a debate here between Hugo Roon and Iman Padima. If I don't read out all your comments, guys, it's because you're addressing each other, not me. And I don't always want to. Also, I'm getting tired. Tina Silva says Zion was Zoan in Egypt, is it? I know there's connections between the Bible and Egypt because of Brian Desborough discovered that a lot of ancient Egyptian mythology is repeated in the Bible many, many years later. Where are we? Okay. Mr. Man, did you get a 69 on a foreign holiday? What are you talking about? You're addressing me? Idealism is the basic occult philosophy, says 69 Phuket says Weekend World theme tune. That was like, oh yeah. Mr. Man, skip the theology discussion, Ben. I'm not talking about theology. You guys are. Hugo Roon says time does not exist as a dimension. Time is a human construction. Reality is just the continuing now. It's funny you should say that, Hugo, because you know when people say, oh, God, today is really dragging, or, my God, time's flying, isn't it? It's this idea of notional time, which seems to be alter speed. There was this quickening leading up to the Mayan calendar changeover in 2012 when it was supposed to slow down again. I have not noticed a reverse quickening since 2012, I must admit. So maybe that's it, yeah. Mellow Bright says, Patrick Moore, second last show, he had a huge picture of the moon. He pointed out 5 domes, does he? Like artificial structures? No, not Patrick Moore. John Denmark, hello. You're a part of the movement. Welcome, John Denmark. You from Denmark? I'm going to Denmark in about a week, just over a week. I will video, by the way, I'm going to video my trip to Denmark, don't worry. Where are we now? Right, okay. Right, the moon domes are optical illusion. No, they're not. See my video about, in fact, I covered it. When did I talk about Donna Hare and Carl Schultz? Carl, what's his name? The disclosure press conference. No, there are real artificial structures on the moon, on the dark side. Yeah, Warrior King. That's right, E-Man. He was at Chester, the Warrior King. Jesus, that's right. King Jesus, it's called. Yeah, I know. E-Man Padima. Jungle Surfer thinks all kinds of things. Diana never died is David Furness, Elton John's husband. If he wasn't so amusing, he'd drive me nuts. He really would. Patrick Moore lived in Salsey Bill. Did he? I know he had a house with a big telescope in his garden. 69 Phuket. There was a black Fuller football 100 years ago in the north. Really? Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not. You see, yeah. I mean, it was just historical accuracy is what we were talking about when it came to this sort of thing, not political correctness. What's this? Okay, American military equals freedom. Oh, right. That's a link. I can't click that. Sorry. He was a minor 69 Phuket. Maybe he looked black because of all the coal dust. Mortals use the radio gaga frequency. Where are we? TK says, I mean, what actually is consciousness? Well, TK, that's something we're still trying to answer. No one knows. You mean the qualia, the hard problem of consciousness? Yeah. Tina Silver, night, Tina. Take care. Sleep well. Cox sucks. Cox. He probably does. God. Mel O'Brien says, all right. They call the king. Yeah, Mr. Mann, about the Romans. Yeah, that's right. And someone said something about World War I. Yes, these were often multiracial. Rupert Sheldrake is an interesting guy. He really is, yeah. 25th of December has nothing to do with the gospel. It's not. Hi, Bill. How are you? Right. Mellow Bryce says, Gurdjieff around 1900 said the sun was a conscious being. There's something called the solar logos, which I think may be something like that. Neptune Chan says, Trump has military tribunals since the 1st of January. I've heard, like, there's people, like, been arrested. It's not been published yet. Do you remember at George Bush's funeral, senior, people were handed out envelopes and they opened them and looked alarmed. That was said to be something to do with QAnon. I hope so. I really do. Mr. Mann says, Mr. Varg reckons Dark Ages were deleted from history because that was the time pagans were wiped out to install Christianity. No, pagans were wiped out to install Christianity, all right, but it wasn't wiped from history. It's a very well-known part of history. Professor Fez, wasn't Mumford really a crap magician from the Muppets? No, he's Carl Mumford is the Herpanimo TV equivalent in the comments boxes of the door-to-door preacher. Lots of cut and paste religious stuff he was putting in there. The videos from the underground says work in the military, especially the ones who know why to oppose the NWO. Well, this is the thing. I think Trump appears to have a lot of the forces on his side against the deep state, and I hope so. Polar bear on a mint scene, says 60 They can swim. They're very good swimmers, yeah. I remember that. Fox's Glacier Mints. Aussie Cast. Ben, have you come across Thomas Williams' Truth, Honour, Integrity show? I haven't. Sorry, Aussie Cast, but welcome. Anyway, nice to see you. I only watch one mumbling mumble, Ben, says Mr. Man. I'm tired of Steve mumbling and his attitude. Mel O'Brien, believe it or not, about 60,000 women every year were slaughtered as witches between 1550 and 1750. Yeah. It's there was Sarah Razor by James DeMeo, Dr. James DeMeo. Are you into the whole orgonomy thing, Mel? It's very interesting. But yeah, they were exterminating witches. I mean, even being left-handed or having red hair could be enough to get you burnt. Crazy, isn't it? And at the same time, they were building these magnificent cathedrals. And as I was saying last week, they're more than just big churches. They're made by the Masonic Knights Templar, and they are extremely sophisticated. Most of them are still standing. Go and visit them. They're incredible things. It's all right, Professor Fez. Don't worry. Is this what comes from the mouth of Corbyn? Funny thing is, Jeremy Corbyn ever becomes Prime Minister, it'll only be for about 3 months. Then we'll have Diane Abbott. Diane Abbott is my second worst person in the world after Professor Brian Cox. Mel O'Brien, I met a woman who worked for Mother Teresa, and she was a nasty, unpleasant person. Yeah, I mean, I recommend Christopher Hitchens and his video about Mother Teresa. I mean, I know that Hitchens is not a perfect person. He could be unpleasant too. But he seems to have got his facts right with this one. Where are we now? I see kids in high-vis on walking trains, 6 years old, very sad. Yeah, I mean, I see the walking trains or the walking buses are like, I think they'll get us all doing that after a while. Where are we now? Okay, up we go. Okay. Mr. Mann, okay, I won't defer to Guy McPherson. Oh, Guy McPherson's. I just feel sorry for him that he has such a completely apocalyptic view of the future. He says his and his wife have deliberately not had children because they know they're not going to live. Mel O'Brien, don't believe anything you hear, only half of what you see. Richard D. Hall was the greatest British researcher. He's great. He is. He's one of the best. Richard D. Hall. He makes mistakes, and I have pointed out some of his mistakes, but he is one of the best. He really is. So are the analogies between quantum physics like Buddhism? I don't know. Black-eyed Shorty, welcome. Mr. Mann says, I like anyone with a Geordie accent. Thomas the Tank Engine was awesome. That was a Scouse accent because that was Ringo Starr. But Mr. Mann, go to Truth Seekers Northeast. Go to one of their meetings. Professor Fez says, I made that up. You had hair 2 years ago. I didn't have hair. I've been bald since about 1995. Richard E. Hall's not putting out much lately. Waiting. Well, Chevy 04, I think he's preparing for his tour. But I think his series has ended. But he hasn't done anything for a couple of weeks. I think he's going to go on tour soon. I'm probably going to see one of his shows. I went to see 4 of them last time. Because people kept inviting me to go with them, so I went with them. And I kept seeing Richard at every one of them, and he gave me that look. I think Richard thinks I'm an MI5 agent, kind of spy on him. But the truth of the matter is, I simply kept being invited to the events, so I went along for social reasons. Professor Fez, Richard Hall has pissed too many people off who trusted him. He claims to be evidence-based researcher, but he just brushes things off that he doesn't agree with. Narrative goats he wants to tell. That's not fair, Professor Fez. He's pissed off people who trusted him, but it's because Richard, like I said, he's isolated himself in the last few years. It's a very self-imposed isolation. He tends to stick to the same 6 or 7 people to interview. He's very, very suspicious and disdainful of other people in the truth movement, and I cautioned him against being overzealous, the way he tends to infer that people are compromised or they're troll or they're shells and stuff like that. I never say that without evidence, and he shouldn't either. But to say he does make mistakes, and indeed I point out many of his mistakes, like in the Penturk video. But I think you're being too hard on him here. You really are. The double slit experiment, that's interesting. Yeah. Mel O'Brien, Miles. No, it's not just Miles. He's done it to lots of people. If you don't, people who don't agree with him after a certain amount of time, Richard tends to sort of say, "Oh, they must be some kind of agent in things like we were talking earlier about Richard Doty." And very often he has no evidence for this. It's something they say which he disagrees with, and he thinks is disinformation. He's right in some cases, but I think he goes too far. He's too hasty to come to that conclusion, and indeed to publicize that conclusion. There's people I suspect who are agents. If I have evidence against them, I'll say so. If I don't, I'll keep it private, and I may share it with people privately, but I don't publicize it. 69 Phuket. No, I didn't find this on the side of the road. I got this for work. I ordered it. This is actually, you may notice it's a different one to the one I had on before. It's slightly bigger because I got one that was too small before. I'll keep that for the summer when I'm wearing a t-shirt. Mr. Mann says, I think Neil Sanders is a commie black. Neil Sanders is another one I've... no, he's not. I mean, Neil Sanders I think he's a great researcher into mind control. I think he has left-wing bias that he doesn't acknowledge. I've written 2 articles actually about Neil. In fact, the most recent one I've got up on there, it's called Denying 2016, is a review of Neil Sanders' latest output. And I think Neil has made an error, and I just point it out politely. And if he is a closet pinko, he can come out of the closet to me. I don't mind. I don't believe you're evil if you're left wing. I think you're just wrong. Indeed, if you're right wing too. I mean, or indeed, I mean, the right wing has this veneer of anti-establishmentism at the moment because the left is basically the tool they're using at the moment, the Illuminati. But they could use either. I think you have to get off the political spectrum altogether to actually understand the real truth, I think. Where are we going through now? David Schultz. See you then. Thank you very much. Okay, go back up here. Mel O'Brien, Everett's experiment is a misconception of reality. You're talking about the multiverse theory. Was it Hugh Everett? So the act of recording dictates what happened. Yeah, it's like the double slit experiment seems to know that people are watching it, which is very odd. My evil plan worked. Where are we now? Professor Fez, Ben. Moore did a whole show about the domes, explaining they are craters a lot of 3D when viewed from above. Well, Professor Fez, he did a lot of debunking things about the moon, including the moon, fake moon landing things. But please do look at the testimony of John O'Hare and Carl Schultz, or Carl Wolf, and the other evidence about the moon. He didn't cover all that. He didn't explain all that. 69 Phuket. An ex-Navy guy stole my bike. If you know who he is, 69 Phuket, then why not? Maybe you should tell the police. There's a little more discussion about the double slit experiment, which is very interesting. Yes. Where are we now? Black holes are the Big Bang. Different subjects. Yeah. You should see Dr. Mangia Samantha Lawton, what she says about black holes. Yeah, she's very interesting. Can you send us a David Lammy duvet cover with matching curtains? David, anything with David Lammy's image on, I would burn. The man is the political equivalent of Professor Brian Cox. He's the guy who's going on about a second referendum from the start because but we don't want to leave the European Union. I don't care if people voted out. I think we should stay in. He's a horrible man. Why he should lose his seat? Why do people vote for him? For God's sake, if you live in his constituency, please don't vote for David Lammy again. Chevy, you've been to Richard's shows too. They're great. They're great, and they're very much social events too, which is why I went to so many of them. Like I say, I wasn't spying on Richard. Mel O'Brien and Edam are now talking about the double slit experiments. Professor Fez, Steve is going to be Steve, Ben. That doesn't mean he has nothing to say. Oh, I know, Professor. I mean, I was thinking of maybe doing a reply to his latest crash retrieval video and then leaving it at that. But I'm not going to reply to anything more on the moon thing. He's already made reply videos to my moon reply video to him. I'm not doing a fourth reply on the moon landings to Steve mumbling. I've got other things to do, other things to make. Hugo Rune, dark matter energy, 95% of our universe. I can identify, I can show it. I just call it charge. That's the electric universe thing we were talking about before. Yeah. Did you say you weren't a fan of Wall Thornhill? Professor Fez, dare I say Diane Abbott and the Wood. No, that's. I know what you mean. I know how disgusting people can be, but Steve was out of order there. And the same, I see Diane Abbott the same way as like Cox. I wouldn't do them any harm. I just don't like them. I just think they're horrible people. Same with so many others. I just don't like. I think them for various reasons. I don't like them. Mr. Mann says the shitty blue fees can be purchased on his website. That's right. Andrew Johnson is about to start a fashion craze. Oh, I've got to get mine. I'll probably buy one off the stall if it's one of his. Then I'll be a sort of bald, extra large Andrew Johnson. Oh, where are we? The multiverse does not exist, says Hugo Rune. 3 spatial dimensions, only time. Oh, much simpler than Cox and Ben would have you. Oh, right. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just thinking it's possibly real or not. I'm not sure. Maybe you're right. You could no, it's not the electric universe. Okay, all right. Ben, your yellow bus have got Romulan shoulder pads. Better than being a Klingon. Mumbling is a complete waste of time. You said it from the start, Neptune. You did indeed. Yeah, I know. And I'm getting fed up with him. Fed up with him. It's his attitude. I mean, and the fact that whatever I say to him, he just makes a reply. And these moon landing debates can go on forever and ever and ever. And I've been through them so many times, and I've looked at both sides of the story, and I still stand by what I say. If someone presented me other evidence, I'd change my mind, but I haven't. Oh, right. Well, we come to the end now, and it's 20 to midnight. So I haven't gone on quite as long as I did before, which is good. Evan says, do you think aliens should be from higher dimensions? Possibly. Like Sphere, yes. Like the book Flatland is really good. Hi, Peter Steins. I'm afraid I'm just about to end, but welcome. Now I'm going to end this live stream now, guys. But thank you very much, all of you, for watching this live stream. About the original subject was, of course, we always go off on a tangent with these comments, but it was about Project Blue Book. I'm looking forward to watching episode 3 and all the other episodes. I think it's really good, and I might do another live stream on it if I think there's enough new information in the actual thing, in the actual series, to do extra information. Or I might just do a review on Her Panmo Voice. So check out the Her Panmo Voice blog as well. Night, Hugo. Thanks, TK. Thank you, E-Man. Ian Bennett. Cheers, guys. Night, Phuket. Night, E-Man. Yeah, night. You're welcome, E-Man, and I hope to see you on the next one. I don't know when that will be. No, I'm not stoned 69 Phuket. I'm just a bit tired. Night, guys. I might be quiet for a while, so if you don't see another video from me from a few days, don't worry. It's because I'm getting ready for my talk in Denmark. So I'm preparing my 2-hour speech for UFO Denmark. I will be filming in Denmark. Don't worry. But then I think there might be one more video coming before I go off to Denmark next weekend after next. There'll be another video next week, which I think I know what it's going to be about, and I'll tell you more at the time. But night, Neil Desbrandam. Night, TK. Night, Peter. And night, Mallow, Brian. And take care. And Mel, be careful of those aliens and those black helicopters. Okay. And you guys have been brilliant. And I shall end it there and hope to see you on the next live stream. And don't forget, there'll be a comments reply video as well at some point. And Susan Hayward Tonkin has turned up. Oh, Susan, my friend from Australia. Oh, Susan, I wonder where you were. Oh, Susan, thanks for joining us at this very last moment. And thanks, mate. I've got to eat something before I go to bed. Take care, guys. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. And thank you for everyone who watched, whether you commented or not.